Hello guys, welcome back to our Fanfic Hub channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Adam Eve's equal and got harem? Part 1. Huge shout out to NeonZangetsu for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Naruto awoke in the water. Everything was painful. It alert. Blurry vision obscured his sight, but he could feel everything. A mask on his face and a tube in his throat, choking him, yet also pumping precious life-giving air into his lungs. Just as he felt that, so too did he feel the rest, more tubes in his arms, torso, even his legs. So many of them. What was the point of them? They were draining something from him. He could see a faint shimmering light leaving his body, pumped down the tubes, then up and away. Yet despite them, he remained weightless, suspended in the water in spite it all. The tank, he realized. They were holding him in a tank of some sort. Why? He didn't remember. An irritated, weak, raspy voice intruded upon his thoughts. You do. Hashirama. No, I don't. Yes, you do. I'm sorry, Naruto. I am so sorry. And just like that, he did. Holly. Let me forget. We're going to have a baby. Let me forget. No. Stop. Don't let them take me. Let me forget. There had been a fight. A flash of lightning. A familiar face. The brutal, bitter sting of betrayal. He wanted to forget. More than anything, he wanted to go back to sleep, go back to his dreams and pretend none of this had happened. But he couldn't now, could he? The memories lit a fire in him. Dull blue eyes blazed back to life, snapping into furious scarlet slits as they hadn't in years. He remembered it all. His heartbeat spiked. Bubbles burst behind the mask. He heard muffled voices in the water. He's waking up. What? That's impossible. He's been comatose for 12 years. Shock nearly silenced his anger. 12 years. No, that couldn't be right. It just couldn't. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. Brain activity is off the charts. He's awake. Keep him sedated. Sedated. These people weren't here to help him, then. He could sense their anxiety, their fear. Which meant. Heartbeat is spiking. But the tissue and semen samples. The hell with the samples. Give him another dose. Quickly. He felt something rush through him from the tubes, flooding his systems. Drugs, no doubt, meant to keep him compliant. They wanted to keep him numb and dumb. Asleep. Deafened to the horrors of the world. Ignorant of who he was, where he had been, and what he had lost. A few moments ago he might have accepted such a fate. It only made him angrier. That's it. Fight. Don't let them put you under again. He'd do more than fight. A snarl bubbled up through the tube and behind the mask. His muscles tensed and his back arched. Chakra, dormant for so long, came rushing back, restoring him. His body doubled over, tearing at the tubes holding him. Pain ripped through him and he gasped, choking around the tube. Suppress the subject. Subject, was he? And just like that, he was out of the fires of hatred and flung onto the proverbial ice, his rage colder than death itself. They didn't think of him as a human. He was so much meat to them, feed for the grinder. No more. Not one moment more. Steeling himself, he reached up and grabbed the tube affixed to his mouth. Then he yanked. Gagged in a stream of bloody bubbles as he spat it out. Not a wise choice. Water rushed in even as he clamped his mouth down on it. Panic mounted in him to render the world a rich ruby red. Out. Had to get out. Air. Now. You have 10 seconds before your lungs burst. Move. His right arm twisted, nearly breaking itself to get at one of the tubes affixed to his back. Bony fingers found it and yanked. Blood flowed forth as the wound tore open, but only for a moment as Kurama forced it shut with fresh chakra. The pain centered him. Woke him up. Together they were stronger than either would have been alone. One down. He focused chakra to his eyes and his vision sharpened. He found the tubes in his legs next. 2. Now his arms. 4. He tore them free one after the other and cast them into the ether, temper rising with each tether. His ears began to ring, muffling the voices beyond the glass. He flung out a hand toward it. Water swirled as the wind rose. He pushed at it, lungs aching, forming a familiar jutsu in his grasp. Not big enough. Larger. Size mattered here in the confines of his prison. Rasengan. When faced with a massive spiraling sphere, even hardened glass couldn't hope to hold out for long. Before his very eyes it fractured. Cracked. Shattered. Water flowed free and carried him with it to freedom as his jutsu fizzled out. His bare back hit the ground in a tangled tumble, and instinct took over, forcing him into a pointed crouch, wasted and gasping for air. But air he received, and with each breath he grew stronger. Focus. We're not out of the woods yet. Activate all systems. Unmetal gray walls greeted him as he raised his gaze, pushing wet blonde hair out his eyes with the back of his left hand. He could hear men and women bleating, but their voices were faint, indistinct, downright muted now. What was this place? It felt wrong. Unnatural. The air smelled too strongly of antiseptic and other medicinal things he didn't recognize. It was a sanitized smell, one that made him gag anew just by breathing. He pushed himself upright. Someone slammed a gun to his forehead and drove him back down. Freeze. Hands where I can see him. He coughed blood as his lungs healed. Purchase of words. Wah. His body blazed gold and black. A hand sifted up, fingers hooked into a claw as they found flesh. Skin shredded. Meat mangled. Bones broke. He skewered them like a pig, slamming his arm into, then threw his skull to blow off the top of his head. They were dead before they knew what was happening. A mercy. Still gripping the body, he withdrew his arm and wrenched it around. Just in time. The door opened on the far side of the room. Guards pounded through. He counted almost a dozen. As one they dropped to their knees. Someone barked behind them. Open fire. A hail of bullets ripped into his impromptu meat shield. It held somehow. He heard guns click empty, accompanied by a cacophony of curses as they fumbled to reload. He looked down and saw the grenades on the vest of the crimson cadaver he was currently clutching. A shit-eating grin stretched across whiskered cheeks. He pulled the pins, all of them. And with a flick of his wrist, flung the corpse at them. It landed dead center in a team of 10. Their eyes widened as he dropped the pins to the floor. The explosion that followed was truly spectacular. He knew it because the entire room absolutely shook. Another tremor rattled the base deeper within. Good. Must have hit something important. He walked through the fire and flames that followed, casually disemboweling a straggler as he went. They dropped behind him, clutching at their stomach. Someone shot him in the back of the head. The bullet ricocheted off his skull and shot them dead. Still he kept walking. Alarms blared, klaxons wailed, flashing lights bathed the world red. His relentless advance continued, bare feet padding against the cold metal floor. Men and women were screaming. Voices crackled from the speakers overhead. Use the gas. We can't. Valves are jammed. I told you to check them, Anders. Naruto's lower lip curled in disgust. Scientists. Profiting from his pain. They'd get theirs later. Right now he just wanted out of here. He could think about other things later. Kill them all, find his wife, and of course, burn this place to the ground with extreme prejudice. That was the order of the day. Kill them all. Burn them all. Rip and tear. Another voice brayed from above. All guards to Sector 6. He's loose. Sure enough, he walked around the corner into an ambush. More men than before. Almost impressive, that. He could have talked them down. But he didn't want to talk. Bullets skittered across golden skin, caromed off a wall and struck a stray scientist dead. Don't use live ammunition, you idiots. Someone hallooed through the gun smoke. Use the tranquilizer rounds. They wanted him alive, did they? Good. A hand rose and Kurama howled with it. Thought they could take him, did they? Never again. He exhaled harshly, a plume of steam fleeing from his mouth, bent double in a crouch. And leaped at them. They never had time to reload. One of soldiers swore. Oh, she. His voice trailed off into a bloody gurgle as a fist tore through his chest. The next guard he grabbed died due to an acute case of asphyxiation via losing most of their throat. The third didn't fare much better. A giant golden claw crushed that one to a pulp against the wall and left him there to die. When a fourth tried to club him with the butt of their gun, he tore it out their grasp and swiped left with a golden hand, lopping their head clean off their shoulders before using that to stave in the face of the fifth. Someone called him a monster. He never knew who. Didn't care. Clutching the much-abused rifle in his grasp, Naruto flooded its magazine with chakra and flung it at his sixth guard. By dint of luck or a sheer blood miracle, the man actually managed to catch it. The impact sent him lurching back into his fellows. He had a moment to laugh in relief. He thought himself safe. He was not. The weapon detonated, ripping him to shreds. Bullets and blood everywhere. More died to shrapnel. Bits of metal that skittered harmlessly off his impervious skin. From there he found a seventh soldier and cut him in half. An unlucky eighth flung a flashbang at him. He slapped it back and it detonated in his face, blinding every guard before him. The stunned men and women never saw him coming. But they felt him tear through them. They screamed just as she had screamed on the night he'd lost her. On and on it went. He fought his way through waves of enemies and killed them all despite their pleas. Ripping and tearing, the whirl of words and wails and weeping until finally. It all stopped. Heart bounding, chest heaving, Naruto dropped a limbless, headless corpse and spun in search of others. Of the men he'd massacred, only one remained. The last living guard took one look at him. Saw the hate in his scowl, the murder in his eyes, the blood dripping from his body, and promptly soiled his trousers. Naruto felt the moment his resolve broke, watched him cast his weapon down. No words were given, no explanation offered. He turned and fled for the exit like the hounds of hell were at his heels. They were. Naruto pointed a golden finger at his rapidly retreating body, closed his eyes, and uttered 2 words. Mini-Rasen Shuriken. The tiny jutsu hurtled forward from his fingertip and struck true. Nothing fled after that but bloody steam. Finally, the lab was silent. Sweet, less silence. With the sudden dearth of violence, he found himself able to think again. Questions babbled in the back of his brain without end. Polly. Where was she? Where was his wife? He couldn't sense her. Not even a little. Panic mounted in him. If he couldn't sense Hirsch was either dead or too weak for him to detect. Grief bloomed in him and he stamped it down with a snarl. Where was there her? Baby. She'd been heavy with child the last time he saw her so where? A whimper caught his ear. He rounded on it. The noise had come around the corner. Nothing. Just a door. He sensed a scientist within, huddled in the broom closet for shelter. Coward. He tore the door off its hinges, ignored their plea, seized them by the scruff of neck and hoisted them up. Glazed eyes took in their frazzled features at a glance. A man. Gray hair. Tall and thin. Dark eyes, likely somewhere hair in his 50s to 60s. Didn't care. Didn't matter. Dragging him close, he smashed his forehead against his. Where is she? The man quivered in his grasp. Where is who? He shouted him down. My wife. They whimpered. I didn't. He dug his fingers in. Don't what? I don't know. His legs kicked out at his chest, to no avail. We were told to keep everything separate. You and the children. Naruto's brain blanked. Children. I tried to tell you. Brandyworth. The scientist babbled, desperate to save himself. He was the head of the project. But he vanished years ago. That's all I know. I swear. Describe him. The man did, haltingly, then was forced to repeat what he knew. He whirled and stretched his senses out once again. That ability at least, remained keen as ever. At his peak, he'd been able to send someone an entire dimension away. By contrast a world was child's play. Still, there were so many lives. So many people. Only one of them would have the chakra he sought. His chakra. Surely they couldn't be that hard to. Oh. There was more than one. Much more, to his great disbelief. There were if. That couldn't right. Unless poor Polly had quintuplets, but no, she'd only been pregnant with Samantha. 1 child. Not 4. He checked. So how? Belatedly, he recalled what he'd heard just before his rampage. But the tissue and semen samples. They shouldn't. They couldn't have. They should know better. But they hadn't, had they? They'd done it anyway. The bastards. The absolute bastards. He'd been comatose for 12 years. Plenty of time for them to harvest all sorts of things from him. His rage blazed, absolutely incandescent. The scientist wailed in his grasp as he slammed him backwards, rendering his back intimate with the wall in a way no one desired. He wedged him there, heedless of their pained cries, their pleas, as his fingers dipped under their chin and found their throat. It was so easy to squeeze the life out of him. To watch his eyes bulged and his face turn purple. Don't. Kurama cautioned before he could. He's of no use to us dead. His grip slackened. He deserves to die for what he's done. Kill everyone here and you'll never have justice. He's proof. Leave him for the police. Anger welled up in him again. Naruto almost laughed at the irony of it all. In what world was Kurama the voice of reason? But he was right. He turned his senses inward again, trying to find the 5 signature he'd felt before. Calm. Focus. Think. It was damnably difficult to do any of those things, but he managed, somehow. 4 were in the same place. Surely they were safety. Safety in numbers and all that. But one was alone, isolated from the others. Older, if only a little. He could feel her fear, her anxiety. Her chakra, dormant, untapped, but still present. That was her. Had to find her. Had to get to her. Surreptitiously. He staggered a little and leaned against the wall as exhaustion overcame him. He shoved it aside and struggled back to his feet. Couldn't stay here. Had to move. Had to find them. Save them. Before it was too late. Kurama vetoed it. You're still too weak. You need to recover. The hell with recovery. Then find some clothes, at the very least. Naruto looked down at himself, clad in nothing more than a sopping wet pair of black boxers. His gaze turned back to the quivering scientist still wilting under his gaze. By some miracle, he had no blood on him or his outfit. I need your clothes. Dr. Brandyworth considered himself a good man. He had found his conscience late in the game perhaps. Almost too late, he knew that, but better late than never, as the saying went. What happened on that god-awful night had never agreed with it, never countenanced it. He'd done his part and tried to see the girl to safety once he realized what the government intended for her. He hadn't been able to save Polly, but he'd managed to spirit her daughter away. And for a time, he thought that might be it. That she would be left in peace and he, content to watch over her from the shadows. Only said daughter had come into her powers. He'd seen her using them, told her, begged her not to use them. Ah, but young Samantha Eve Wilkins was stubborn. Of course she was. She was a child, after all. Children didn't see the world the way adults did. Where he saw a right to be cautious, she thought herself invincible. She wasn't. She thought she had everything under control. She didn't. Was she skilled? Certainly. Gifted? Undoubtedly. In great danger? Indubitably. To that end, she mustn't keep using her powers. They would find her if she did. And if they did, she'd never know peace. He told her as much, but he doubted she'd listen now, not when she was still reeling from the revelation of being adopted in the first place. In hindsight, that might not have been the best move, but still. And so they'd parted ways in the park. He'd fled into the trees. She'd flown away. Something must be done. He had to help Polly's daughter, protect her, keep her safe. Her mother would never forgive him if he didn't. That might mean taking her from her parents, but what choice did he have? It was that or let the government find her again, and who knew what would happen then. A shadow emerged out of the gloom ahead him, resolving into the shape of a man. "What's up, Doc?" Brandyworth stumbled, eyes bulging. Funny how he could make 3 words sound so threatening. In an instant he found himself whipped around into a tree. "Let's talk about my daughter." Realization broke within Brandyworth and broke him. "Oh gods, it's you, isn't? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The blonde berserker scowled at him, not quite comprehending. "Have we met?" "No, no. I've only heard of you. But I'm not your enemy, I swear." A small part of him had always suspected Eve's father was still alive out there, somewhere. The way Polly had spoken of Hamsomian like that didn't simply die. Nor would they ever go quietly into that good night. Rather, he couldn't be killed. Surprised, yes, even subdued given a once-in-a-lifetime miracle, but killed. Oh, no. Could you kill the air? No. Slay a storm? Impossible. Seize the stars? Absurd. There were some things in this world you simply could not defeat. You could only contain them, and even then not for very long. They must have held him captive. Did that be gods, they must have kept him drugged to the gills. He looked like he'd seen better days. And that was saying something, coming from one who'd lived on the streets for some time himself. The clothes he wore were a size too small for him, shirt buttons straining at his chest. Whatever the government might have gotten from him, he hoped it was worth it. This man would never lower his guard again. He could not be found wanting, not be caught off guard, no, never. He would find the ones that had done this to him, and woe betide the rest. And if he wasn't very careful he'd be joining them in a shallow grave. "I tried to help her." He babbled quickly, eager to placate the monster before him. "I couldn't save her mother during labor, but I made sure her daughter had a good life, a decent life." The silence proved palpable. "Polly's dead." The words were a rasp. "For 12 years now, yes. She spoke of you fondly, before the birth." "Prove it. Tell me my name." "Naruto." The young father palmed his face with a deep shuddering sigh and glared at him between his fingers. So much anger. So much rage. This had been a good man once. Before he'd been betrayed. Before he was taken. Before he lost everything he held dear. For a wild moment, Brandyworth thought he might murder him in cold blood. He had every right. He should have said more. Should have done more to help that poor girl. But he hadn't, not until it was too late. He would carry the weight of that sin to his grave. Maybe he'd be going to it now if that man looming over him had any say in the matter. Finally, his face softened. "I believe you. That's the only reason you're still alive. But my daughter's in danger. So here's what you're going to do." The fist caught him by the shirt and reeled him in. "Take me to her. Now." There she was. Samantha Eve Wilkins. The last name made Naruto bristle, even now. Wilkins. 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 What kind of last name was Wilkins? Samantha wasn't meant to be a Wilkins. She was an Uzumaki girl through and through. Her fiery hair was a dead giveaway to anyone who had the eyes to see. If that weren't enough, she looked just like her mother. Yet she was living with strangers, clinging onto a miserable life. Oh yes, he could sense her pent-up negativity that she didn't even want. She was suffering, had been suffering for all of 12 years, and he hadn't been able to do a damn thing about it. That stopped today. Brandyworth had told him everything. More than that, he'd engineered the perfect opportunity to meet her, and in doing so, sway her to his side. All he had to do was to watch and wait. Together they'd watched her take down some B-list villain with only a little effort only a short while ago. Some crazy with a cannon who had the bright idea to rob a bank. Kill something or other. Probably not important in the grand scheme of things. Couldn't be bothered to remember him. But he remembered the fight. Samantha acquired herself well in that dark alleyway. He was. Dare he say proud? Yes, he was proud of her, this feisty little daughter he'd never met until this moment. Mustering all of his patience, he stayed hidden, camouflaged in the shadows as Brandyworth fulfilled his end of the bargain. The good doctor confronted Samantha, gently chided her for using her powers. And in hiding, he learned something else. Another name, if you would. Adam Eve. Wasn't a bad name for an up-and-coming heroine in training. Ah, but they were talking now. Moving. Best pay attention. Trade you a burger for some answers. Brandyworth heaved a sigh. That sounds lovely. Naruto nearly broke cover then and there. Instead he followed them at a discreet distance as planned. While she led him to a fast food joint. Burger Mart or some such. Like the forgettable villain, he didn't pay attention to the name. He took a seat behind them, keeping his hood up and back to them, one ear half cocked as they tucked into a meal. Tell me about my parents. Samantha said suddenly. He didn't miss the quiver in her voice. My real parents. You said I was adopted, so I was my real dad. Naruto's blood boiled and he bit into a hamburger to stifle a snarl. The food tasted like ash. He forced himself to swallow. It's me. I'm right here. Hashirama was silent as the grave, unwilling to test his temper. All the while he waited for Brandyworth to say something, to betray his trust, to turn on him as the rest of the world had. If he did, he would kill him stone dead. Not in front of Samantha of course wouldn't do to scar his little princess like that, but he absolutely would the first chance he got. His fingers tensed on the table, as the man polished off the last of his own burger, wiped his mouth with a napkin. At length, he sighed. I didn't know your father until recently. Samantha bolted upright, straight as a board. Clever girl, putting two and two together already. Recently. There it was, the little warble within her words, the quiet plea of a forgotten child. You mean's alive. And kicking, the old doctor tented his fingers as he laid his chin atop them. He was in a coma for quite some time. 12 years, in fact. For all his ire, Naruto felt his opinion of the man climb a little higher. He didn't have to do that, didn't need to defend him, explain his absence as he did. Yet he had. It spoke well to his character that he would. There was no fear in this weary old man. Just exhaustion. A deep-bone tiredness, guilt, alongside the determination to right his wrongs and fix his mistakes. He decided then and there that he would spare Brandyworth. Everyone else involved in his and Polly's disappearance would get what was coming to them, but this man would live. As a matter of fact, he actually sought me out, believe it or not. He chuckled ruefully into a closed fist. You definitely get your stubbornness from his side of the family. Eve leaned forward. He could sense her nervous anxiety, fear blooming into hope. Who is he? Do you know where he is, now? Can I meet him? Of course you can, dear girl. The old doctor leaned past her. I dare say he's very eager to meet you. Samantha followed his gaze. Naruto felt her eyes on him. That was his cue. He stood up. No way. Just no way. No freaking way. Samantha blinked. She blinked hard. Pinched herself now, for good measure. Pain snarled up her arm. She didn't wake up. Okay, not a dream. That was good. Right. Wasn't it? Her heart was beating so damn fast. Felt like it was going to burst right out her chest, you know. What did she say? What did she do? She'd imagined a moment like this ever since she'd realized she was adopted, which made an awful lot of sense. Dad was a beep and mom was practically a living doormat, but now that it was here, she didn't know what to do. Oh God, what was she going to do? What if he didn't like her? What if he hated her? What if… Calm. She snapped at herself before her anxiety could get the better of her. Calm. You can do this, Samantha. Ach. She swallowed, trying to clear her throat. Who's this? Brandyworth smiled. You know who he is. Go on, now. Don't be shy. The hooded man chuckled aloud. It was low, yet strangely reassuring sound. It's a bit of a catch-22. As she looked on, the stranger tugged back his hood, revealing himself, letting wind flow across his fingers. In an instant she glimpsed bright blue eyes framed by whiskered cheeks, tawny blonde hair, and a weary smile. For the longest time, my purpose was to guide life, protect life, and in that, I failed. You could say failure is my defining trait. That smile became a rueful grin, briefly lighting his dour face. I've failed many times. And learned from each one. But what they did to Yao, no one has the right to alter or end life at their convenience. If I'd know what they were doing, what they intended. His face. It was like hers. She'd always wondered why she had these marks on her face. Her not dad called it a birth defect. A deformity, something she must cover up with makeup, something she had covered at this very moment. I always wanted a family, the blonde man crouched down before her, but things went wrong. I'm sorry. He reached out and laid a hand on her head. I wish I'd known about you. Wish I'd broken out sooner. I wish you didn't have to live 12 years of your life suffering like this. What's your name? Naruto Uzumaki. He hummed. Hearing it reassured her somehow, made him seem more real. That's your real last name, by the way. Not Wilkins. Never Wilkins. Whiskered cheeks dimpled in a wry smile. It's so nice to finally meet you, Samantha. Your mother would have been so proud of you. Uzumaki, huh? It sounded way better. But this was all happening so fast for her. Wait. Panic got the better of her and she flung up both hands, conjuring a barrier to ward him off. She stared at him through it, choked a little, and found her words. Are you saying you're really my? Yeah. I am. He nodded once, but didn't budge and most importantly, didn't push her. She appreciated it more than he could ever know. Could you find it in your heart to forgive me? Samantha's brilliant mind fizzled out spectacularly, unable to comprehend him. Forgive you? For not being there for you. His smile was a sad one. For missing all those birthdays. Something tore deep inside her. The barrier quivered. You don't think I'm a freak? Of course not. He smiled back at her through the wall. You're my daughter. It was everything she'd ever wanted to hear. Never in her life had she needed something so much and never known until she received it. Here was someone who understood. He looked at her powers without fear. Didn't call her a freak, or a mistake, or a monster. He just smiled and called her his daughter. Her other parents didn't do that. They called her weird. They wanted her to be normal. An average girl with an average life. As if she ever could be. She hadn't asked to be born like this. And yet, despite all that, he smiled. In the end, it was the smile that finally won her over. Her face screwed up. Her eyes burned. A tiny hiccup tore past her lips. Daddy. Always have been, always will be. He opened his arms to her, despite the barrier between them. Wanna hug it out? Samantha's barrier shattered as she dove right through it. She absolutely tackled him. Her head hit his chest and that was it. She lost all self-control. Her arms betrayed her, wrapped as far around him as they could go and held tight, never wanting to let go. Not ever again. His chin came down on her shoulder, bringing with it the faint scent of fire and autumn. She wasn't sure if she should remember that smell, or if she even could. She'd been taken from him before she was even born. Fresh tears flowed forth at the thought. And she broke. People said crying was a beautiful thing. They'd never seen a kid cry before. She didn't weep, she wailed, burying her head into his hoodie, unable to help herself as years' worth of grief tore her self-control to bits. Her powers sparked and fizzled through her fists as she gripped at his hoodie, singing the fabric in her grasp. Even then Dad didn't deny her, didn't refute her, didn't once try to push her away, even as she made a scene. He just held her. Like a parent should. Like her other dad never did. His body felt bony, proof of his captivity, like he'd gone one too many days without a proper meal, but she didn't care. He was here, he was holding her, and she was never letting him go. She wasn't sure how much time passed after that. Seconds. Minutes. It felt like a lot. Finally, after what felt like an awful eternity, she found her voice. Where were you? All this time. I was unconscious. He drew back, holding her at arm's length to answer the questions he knew were burning her up inside. Kept in a coma for more than a decade. I only woke up a few days ago in a government lab and had to fight my way out. That was a really good excuse. She couldn't even be mad at him for it. Mimi. She sniffled a little, unable to help herself. I hate you. He saw right through the lie. You don't. I really don't. She hiccuped and darted back into his arms, craving his warmth. Never leave me again, okay? Words babbled out of her and she couldn't hold them back, didn't think she could even if she wanted to. I want to stay with you. Don't send me away. Whatever you want, princess. He kissed her forehead. I've got 12 birthdays to catch up on and a costume to dig up. Samantha couldn't help but laugh at that. It was a tiny broken sound. So you're a hero, too. I was. He seemed oddly ashamed to admit that, for some reason. A long time ago. Ooh-oh. She warmed to the topic. Did you have a superhero name? His ears burned a bright pink. I did, but it wasn't the best one. You can tell me. He looked away, face red. Adao. She blinked. Huh. Fire shadow. He muttered. She snorted. Okay, that's kinda bad. Brandyworth coughed into a fist to hide his laughter. Naruto daddy. Turned a dark glower on him. Hey. I didn't choose the name, Polly did. And just like that he had her attention again. Polly. His anger blew out like a candle in the wind. That was your mother's name. You look just like her. Samantha burned with fresh intrigue, her mind hungering for more information. What was she like? My mom, I mean. Dad's smile cracked a little. She was a wonderful woman, the first person I met when I came to this world. It was love at first sight. Really? She helped me more than I can possibly explain. There's so much I want to tell you about her. She wanted the best for you. We both did. But then he winced suddenly, as though recalling a particularly unpleasant memory. Eve, sweetie, there's something else you should know. You have SIB. A distant explosion rattled the world. Brandyworth heaved a sigh. Oh, dearth, it can't be good. Sure enough, a cop car rushed by, sirens wailing. Naruto tensed as though he'd sensed something and doubled over, briefly clutching her close. On second thought, he stood, maybe it's better if I show you. Samantha blinked anew. Show me what? Hold that thought. He swept her up into his arms. Then he leaped and the world blurred. You can fly. Yup. And jump good. Laughter bubbled up in Eve, high and giddy and free, as her father gathered his legs beneath him and leaped again, sending the two of them hurtling through the air once more. All the while, he kept her tucked snugly against his chest with one arm, while keeping the other loose and free. Ready to defend her against the horrors of the world. It felt nice to be carried. To not use her powers for once and just be a passenger. She could have flown sure, but for once, just this Onsage didn't mind being carried like a princess. Was this what it felt like to have a real dad? Whatever it was, she was along for the ride, clinging onto him for dear life as he bounded between buildings with supernatural grace, each leap carrying them further and further towards the chaos ahead. Still, why Fire Shadow? She'd chosen Adam Eve because it sounded kickass, but she couldn't understand why Dad's secret identity would be quite saucily. He'd said Polymom. Had chosen it. She knew so little about her. It hurt, not knowing who she was, not knowing if she was alive or dead. She didn't even have a picture of her. Brandyworth said today was your birthday. Naruto said suddenly, apropos of nothing. Is that true? Her head whipped up. Huh? Your birthday? He looked down at her with a rueful smile. Is it today? It is. She squirmed in his arms as another powerful leap carried them across the city. I'm 12 now. He swore softly to himself. I'll get you something nice once this is over. That sounded nice, but her thoughts persisted, gnawing at her. Do you think Mom is still alive? She expected an outburst, anger at the very least. None came. Dad planted his feet atop a skyscraper and released her, letting her squirm her way free as he stopped short of the edge. He flicked down his hood and cast a quick glance toward the rising smoke on the highway. It looked like he wanted to race over there right away, but when he looked back to her, Eve saw that desire wither and die in his eyes. Wind swept through his hair and she glimpsed a scarlet stain amidst the spiky mess. Somehow she doubted it was ketchup. He'd killed people. He must have having escaped that awful lab. Why didn't that bother her? Should it bother her? I don't know. When he finally spoke, Naruto sounded tired. It was the sigh of a man who'd missed much. I just don't know. If she is, she's barely alive and I can't sense her. It's been 12 years. But you survived. She latched onto his sleeve, tugging at his burned hoodie, hard in her throat. You didn't die. I'm not exactly normal. He said. Your mother was, for the most part. Mom wasn't like you. She was not. He echoed her, a distant look in his eyes. Polly was an ordinary woman, but all the more feisty for it. Would you believe our first meeting began with cold coffee all over my face? Samantha felt her hands fly to her face. No. Yes. His chuckle proved a hoarse one. I tried a god-awful pickup line on her and paid the price for it. Later, after we became friends, she discovered my true nature. Even later, after we grew closer, she came up with that god-awful hero name you heard earlier. I wanted to use Hokage, but she insisted no one would know what that meant, so it was Fire Shadow or nothing. The bitter laugh escaped her. She does sound feisty. I don't even know what she looks like. There might be some photos back at our old place. Eve perked up. Old place. We had a house. He chuckled a little, running one hand through his dirty hair. Saved up and bought it ourselves before everything went wrong. I'm not sure if it's still standing. Someone might have torn it down and sold the lot for all I know. When he saw her hopeful expression, his shoulders drooped. But we can look, if you like. Together. Together. He patted her head. Well, that settled things then, didn't it? Momsh had to be alive. Dad was here, and Dad said she was a fighter. That meant she must be out there somewhere, right? Right? It's alright to be afraid. Dad's hand moved a little higher, tousling her hair. Fear is natural. The problem is, the more you fear something, the more likely you are to make it come true. In the end, it's all about trust. She pursed her lips in a pout and he laughed. But what is trust? Trust is having confidence in another. Not blind trust like an animal. Genuine trust. For instance, I'd trust you have my back if someone attacked me, and I'd like to think you would trust me to catch you if you fell. Her head bobbed. That made sense. Just like I trust you. And why is that? Because you're my dad. She knew it with her whole heart now. That little chat had served to solidify their bond. And you're a good person. You wouldn't let anyone hurt me. Of course not. He sounded pleased, as if she'd just passed some unspoken test between the two of them. Another explosion echoed from the city below, drawing a wince from the both of them. She looked that way and glimpsed a traffic pillar from afar. Cars smashed against one another on one side, a crude police barricade on the other. What was that? No, who was that? Even at this height she could see 4 distinct figures in the distance on the other side of the blockade. They didn't look right. Whatever they were hunched over, snarling at the boys in blue. Ad made a noise caught somewhere between a gasp and a snarl. Those poor things. Her brow furrowed. Poor things. What are you talking about? Ad. You're not making any sense. Eve, there's something you should know. He looked away with a grimace, pained by the words for reasons she couldn't understand. Something I didn't have a chance to tell you before. When I was unconscious, the scientists did things to me. Took samples from me. Weird. What did he mean by that? Okay. Not okay. His voice sharpened for a moment before he mastered himself. They took tissue samples. Among other things. My DNA. He cast a meaningful look to the hunched figures down below. And what do you think they did with those samples? Realization broke like so much glass. Oh, that wasn't good. Naruto's response was the proverbial nail in the coffin. Those are your siblings down there causing chaos. They were made then raised by the government and no, before you ask, I've never met them. Didn't even know they existed until recently. A family. Brothers. Sisters. She'd never thought about having any before. And yet his words rang true. So why are they down there causing trouble? I expect we're about to find out. But how do you know? He tapped a finger to his head. I can sense their dormant chakra, same as yours. She rounded on him. My wetsuit. Chakra. He held up a finger. You have it, or rather, a version of it. Your brothers and sisters do as well. He leaned over the edge, regarding the smoke below. Gunshots crackled out as the police opened fire on their attackers, both briefly driving them back and buying him a moment to explain. But just having chakra doesn't make you powerful. You have to know how to unlock it, utilize it, make it flourish. I think I get it. You don't? Naruto tousled her hair. But that's alright, I'll explain. Anyone with my DNA would be fast, strong, a proper pain to put down, but you don't awaken chakra just by cloning some shinobi tissue among other things. A brief wince flitted across his face. You only create the potential for it. I think you've partially unlocked yours through your ability to interface with molecules, but there's still so much more you can do. In a way, that ability of yours is a lot like Inoki's, but dialed up to the max. There's still so much you can do and you don't even realize it. A scream arose from below. Look, Dad drawled, you don't have to go down there if you don't want to, you know. If it's too much for you, I understand. He looked back too, scratching a whiskered cheek with one finger. It's been a crazy day and it's only going to get crazier from here on out. I won't blame you if you want to sit this one out. She flinched and stepped back on the rooftop, stung by his words. Are you telling me to leave? No. He drew her in for a quick hug. Never. It's just he don't want this to traumatize you. And there's a good chance it will. Indignation coiled in her, heady and angry. Hey. I can be brave. You don't understand. His hand came down on her shoulder, keeping her from running off. They may be your siblings, but they've gone through hell. I can sense that. They're a bundle of nerves, anxiety and anger right now. That's putting aside what's been done to their bodies. They're still human, but only just. It's going to take an awful lot of work for me and Kurama to fix them, assuming we can. What's a Kurama? Technically your uncle, he winked. You've got a piece of his chakra and he's very eager to meet you. I'll explain later. Last chance to back out. Did she want to do this? No. Did she have to? Yes. She'd never forgive herself otherwise. I have to do this. Alright, then. He granted her a quick kiss on the forehead. I'll be with you every step of the way. His words comforted her, soothed away the last of her fears as he looked her way. You good to fly on your own from here on out? Excuse me. She clicked her tongue at him and planted a fist on her hip. Superhero, remember? Anything you can do, I can do better. Can you keep up with me, old man? Her words were bravado and they both knew it. She was trying to psych herself up, push away the fear before it got the better of her. Is that so? A rare, genuine smile spread across his face, actually reaching his eyes this time. Try to keep up then, rookie. He rocketed down to the highway below, with her only a heartbeat behind. Now that they'd come closer she could see what her siblings were. Dad had been right. None of them looked even remotely human. The boys wore black breeches, and all but one of the girls were wrapped in some hideous black one-piece jumpsuit that bulged in all the wrong places, echoing their deformities yet further. There was something wrong with them, Eve realized. They had been broken and twisted, the horrors they'd suffered left their flesh practically sloughing off their bodies. One, at least, she could be certain was a boy and the other a girl, but the other two were almost too deformed for her to even recognize, their skin red and raw and interfaced with ghastly tech that made them appear more machine than many. These were her siblings. One of them saw them coming, screamed at the officers and launched an empty car their way. Dad shot forward at speed, blocked it with a giant hand. It looked just like one of her abilities, but gold, and deftly planted it on its side in the street, creating an impromptu barrier of sorts between them and the people who just might be her siblings. He landed behind it and she floated in beside him as he turned to face the officers, grinning from ear to ear. "Fall back and form a perimeter, gentlemen." The youngest of them bridled. "Who are you two supposed to be? This entire area is locked down. Get the hell out of here." One of the quartet took advantage of his distraction and flung another car, this one a van, at the back of his head. Dad caught it. Just snatched it up by the undercarriage and tossed the empty vehicle back at them. The quartet scattered for cover. So did the police. "Well, just fall back and form that perimeter, yeah?" Dad rolled his eyes their way. "That'd be great." Eve turned shining eyes on him. "That was totally wicked. Can I do that?" He winked and vaulted over the barrier, letting her hover after him. "With proper training you'll be able to everything I can, someday." How could he be so calm under fire like this? What the heck was he, really? Immortal? Invincible? Neither of those things. Sometimes he acted like he didn't have a care or fear in the world. Or maybe he did and he was just good at hiding them. Heads up. Something lunged at her, tackled her in midair and grabbed her. Whatever it was wet and it smelled. Get off. She panicked and blasted them away. They struck the windshield of a police cruiser and just splintered across it. As she looked on, the ghastly little thing actually reformed Uigris and dragged itself toward her. Even missing an eye and most of its face, it still lurched forwards. Its body crumbled with every step it took, bits of decaying flesh and cybernetics falling from its body. Dad met it halfway, drawing the poor creature into his arms. Eve rounded on him, desperate for answers. "What's happening?" "Her body's falling apart." A mournful sigh escaped him. "She's dying." From there he began to speak fervently to the creature in question. "Hold on, kiddo. I can fix this. Don't you die on me. You're not allowed to die, you hear?" Someone came crashing down behind her, shattering the hood of a car. Eve whirled to face them and flung up a barrier, but no attack came. He didn't look much better than the rest. He had blonde hair like Dad's and one good blue eye. The other was a mass of disfigured tissue, just like the rest of him. Her mind designated him as Blonde Boy for lack of any other namesake. Did he even have a name? "It's hard for us, you know." An unfamiliar voice issued from his throat. "We're not perfect, like you." "Who are you?" "You don't know." The blonde gnashed his teeth at her as his companions lurched forward to join him. "I have to speak for our siblings, they've never been out of their tanks long enough to learn how to talk." The creature in Naruto's arms gurgled pitifully, echoing his claim. Eve winced despite herself. "Our siblings. Oh, geez. Dad really hadn't been wrong after all." The boy who just might be her little brother scoffed. "You're phase 1, then," he pointed to himself. "Phase 2, his hand swung out to the disfigured girl beside him. "Phase 3, now the poor twisted creature that just might have been one of her brothers. "Phase 4, and of course, you've already met Phase 5. His good eye swung down to the still twitching creature sprawled at their feet. Each attempt less successful than the last. "We're all one big happy family." "Whoa, now." Naruto held up a hand, still cradling the dying girl in his other arm. "You don't want this fight. Let's all just calm down and talk this through." "Screw you, old man." "Old? Is that any way to talk to your pops?" His words had the desired effect. The four of them froze. The blonde one, the only one who seemed to be able to speak, rallied first. "Lier, you were lying. We don't have a father." He flung a car at him. Naruto batted it aside with one hand. Glared over them as an explosion bloomed behind him. He stood slowly, hanging his head. "I am your father. And this is your sister." At first glance, he looked the same. Sounded the same, too. Normal. Calm. He was not. It was only when Eve looked at him, directly at him, when she saw his face rather, that she truly understood the scope of the emotions Naruto was feeling in this moment. He wasn't mad. He'd gone well past that. He was furious. She could see it there in his eyes, the way they kept flickering. From blue to gold, now red, then back to angry azure. His very being seemed to shimmer in the afternoon, heat radiating from his shoulders. A deep, shuddering breath escaped him. "Who did this to you?" "What are you talking about?" The scraggly blonde scowled back at him. "We've always been like this. We were born like this. Made, created. To be this. Do you even have names?" "Of course we don't." A brutal chill pervaded the air. For the first time in Samantha's life she felt fear. Because her dad was smiling now. "And who was it that created you?" "You're awfully chatty for a dead man." "Indulge me." It was not Q request and they all knew it. Remarkably, the boy did. "Erickson. Big guy. Works for the government." "I see." Naruto palmed his face. "That's good. His head bobbed in a slow, erratic nod, almost wooden compared to his earlier behavior. I have a name to work with. He laid a stabilizing hand on her poor, mangled sister at her feet, and the decay of her body seemed to slow a little, somehow. Finally. Samantha gulped. Daddy. Are you? Daddy's just fine, sweetheart. He turned that same smile on her. It didn't reach his eyes, and the sheer glacial rage in his gaze made her tremble. Don't worry. I'm just going to feed this Erickson their heart. That's all. Meep. Daddy, no. He scowled. Daddy, yes. Before their very eyes Naruto threw his head back and roared. The moment he did, his body burned gold and black. Eve recoiled, warding one hand before her face. It was like watching a second sun be born, a blazing inferno so bright it cast countless shadows in all directions. In an instant, she understood his hero name. Fire Shadow. He burned so very brightly, eclipsing everyone before him. The ground seemed to melt at his very feet, such was the intensity of the heat he emitted. But he didn't stop there. No more. He bit out the words. I'm not losing one more life on my watch. Dropping down to a knee, he laid both hands upon the poor broken girl she'd accidentally maimed. Easy, now. He crooned. It's alright. I know it hurts. I'm here. Daddy's going to make it all better. Just give me a second. He laid golden hands on her battered broken back. The specimen quivered under his touch. There was a blinding pulse of light and then. Ah! A thin reedy cry filled the air. The cry of a startled child. Samantha's vision recovered quickly and she was able to see the miracle first. And what a miracle it was. In place of what was once a twisted creature of metal and flesh, she found herself looking at a little girl huddled among bits of sundered cybernetics, naked as the day she was born. She looked up and Eve recoiled when she glimpsed stunned green eyes and long rust-red hair. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, though it was hard to tell, given how she was hunched over at Dad's feet. Eve felt her heart hitch at the sight of her. She looked like a mini version of her, just with darker hair and a freckled face. Ah! The reborn girl gazed down at her hands and tried to speak, but couldn't. Though she could understand speech, she's still lacking the capacity to form words herself. Ah! It didn't stop the tears from her eyes. She hiccuped softly and patted herself down, still in shock, fascinated by her fingers and toes. Naruto patted her head. Welcome to the world, Amanda. Do you like that name? Evidently the little lass did. Because she tried to stand. No, no, no. Naruto swiftly removed his hoodie exposing his upper torso and draped the heavy blue fragment over her to preserve her decency. None of that, sweetie. Give yourself time to heal. Why don't you take a rest? You must be tired. Much to Eve's surprise, her littlest sister shook her head and clutched at the hoodie with intent. Ah. 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 She pointed eagerly towards her stunned siblings, frantically to communicate something. Of course. Naruto was all smiles as he kissed her pale forehead. They're next. Just gimme my neuter 3. Little Amanda nodded and made a satisfied noise, pleased that he understood simple instructions. That's my girl. Eve, be a dear and look after your baby sister for a bit, would you? Stunned, she found herself walking forward on numb legs to do just that. Amanda took one look at her, burbled happily, then reached for her with wide eyes and open arms. It was never a contest. Samantha felt her heart twist in her chest, and then her body betrayed her. Just like that she found herself scoop the girl up, ill-fitting hoodie and all. The very second she had her up in her arms, Amanda latched on like a spider monkey, refusing to let her go. It felt nice. Really nice, just holding her like this. Isn't this nice? Dad drew them both into a crushing hug. We're one big happy family. Quite suddenly, the blonde boy over there didn't look so angry anymore. Nor did the rest of his mutated siblings. What did you do to her? I fixed her. Naruto climbed to his feet and dusted his bloody trousers down. Which is exactly what I'm going to do for you 3. He flung out a hand outward, stabbing a finger their way, causing the monstrous trio to freeze under his glare. Now, we can do this one of 2 ways. First, he raised his right hand, there's the easy way. You give up, sit down like good little boys and girls, and let me fix your everything. All that's wrong with you, all that's been done to you. Or, and she didn't miss the sadness in his voice, we can go the hard way. In which case you try to fight me. The blonde boy raised a mangled arm at him, eye wild with panic. This is a trick. You're trying to trick us. We won't be fooled. Now hold on. Dad held up a tan hand. You might have misheard me. This option ends with you knocked out cold and me healing you regardless. One way or another, I am going to be your father. One of these choices simply involves a little more tough love, that's all. So which will it be? Easy way or hard way? Airorden rushed him. Naruto exhaled softly. Hard way it is. With a patient smile and a parental roll of the eyes he glided forward, ducked under a savage swipe, then planted an open palm in the boy's gut. He folded like a house of cards and rocketed across the freeway to strike an empty van. In the same instant the other two blitzed him. Dad caught them by their faces and flung them away. Whoa. This was her dad. This was not a fight. This was discipline. This was him laying down the law. The blonde boy rushed him. Dad glanced at him askance. Just looked at him and the boy froze. Calm down, Kurama. He muttered softly. Don't scare the poor kid half to death. The blonde boy dropped to a knee, gasping for air. Naruto reached for him and nearly lost it as his siblings flanked him. It gave his siblings a chance to counterattack, for all the good it did them. This is not who you are. Naruto blew out a heavy sigh as he swayed away from the duo. This is not who you are meant to be, and this is not who you are going to be if I have anything to say about it. Ad flowed like water, weaving around their clumsy strikes, never striking directly, giving ground, and letting them wear themselves down until, finally, he happened. He found an opening, kicked one of the boys away into the other, and rounded on their suddenly solitary sister. Alone, she was no match for him. It didn't stop her from trying to be. He caught the girl's warped fist, sliced off a grasping fleshy tendril, then twisted her arm right round and flung her over his shoulder, slamming her into the street. Flat on her back and stunned by the sudden savagery of his stack, they couldn't react in time when he pressed a knee into their gut, pinning them in place. Gotcha. Their eyes widened as his shadow fell over them. Now hold still. They snarled up at him and flailed like a hellcat, feral to the last. You don't even realize I'm trying to help you. How sad. He grabbed them by the face with both hands, and the world burned gold once more as his chakra sang through the air. This time, Eve was wise enough to avert her eyes. Then the light faded. Ah. A stunned retreated girl laid on her back and stared up at her perfect hands, her lithe form still clad in that ugly black jumpsuit. It must have been made of a special material that conformed to the body, because now it clung to her decidedly normal form, preserving her decency in a way that it hadn't for little Amanda. She was at least older than her. She'd hazard her age at 10 years, more or less. Her eyes were also a piercing shade of blue and filled with so much confusion. Good morning, Jessica. Naruto named her sister and patted her head in the same instant. Hope you enjoy your new life. Be a dear and go stand over there with your sisters. He was still speaking when a fleshy fist crashed into the back of his head. Look what you're doing. What I'm doing. He batted the blonde boy's arm aside and kneed him in the chin, only to grunt as the other jumped onto his back and tried to strangle him with the fleshy tendrils. I'm saving you. A gasp tore out of him as a fleshy tendril wound its way around his throat. I didn't start this. I didn't even want to do this. Then die already. Dad didn't dignify that with a verbal response. He just reared back and stomped. A spike of hardened earth burst from the street and struck the blonde boy in the chest, launching him away. Eve knew what was coming next, even if the other boy didn't. Sure enough, Naruto reached backward and grabbed the head of the boy still clinging to his back. Golden palms clamped down as a cry burst forth, both from him and the little fiend even now trying to choke him out. Let there be light. Chakra flared and the lad crashed backward with a gasp, not as a monster, but a human. He landed hard on his rear, black breeches tattered and torn. Eve felt a tiny laugh tumble from her lips. Was she going crazy, or was she getting used to this? Because she didn't even balk at his appearance now. His head was a cloud of auburn curls, his eyes a piercing shade of violet, his face writ in confusion. 7 years old. Probably. She was having an awful time keeping track of all these ages. He turned a baffled look on Naruto, unable to speak like the red. Ah. Little Amanda clapped happily. That's right, bad. Bad boy. Dad took him by the shoulders and frog-marched him their way with singular determination. You cut that out right now, Luca. That's right. He snapped at him when the little boy balked. You have a name, so you don't get to act like an animal anymore. Now be a good boy and make up with your sister or so help me I will ground you for life. But just left. An awful crack filled the air. Dad tumbled to the side, hissing in pain. And something shifted in her peripheral's vision. Blonde boy slammed down on her from above with a blood-curdling shriek. You. Ardent fists fused with concrete chunks crashed into her desperate barrier and found themselves rebuffed. A wild face leered back at her, made mad with sadness and sorrow. She recoiled from the sheer intensity of it. The agony, the fury, the misery of it all. He'd gone insane. Completely, utterly insane. Why do you exist? He howled at her, snarling through broken teeth as he wailed on her shield. It isn't fair. You're taking everything away from me. Even my siblings. How come you get a father? Why didn't I? He's making everything perfect for you. Except me. Calm down. She rasped back, wincing as the barrier cracked, shielding Amanda with her good arm. Where had Dad gone? I don't want to fight you. It doesn't have to be this way. We could all move in with him and Dr. Brandyworth. It made him pause, if only for a moment. Brandyworth. The blonde boy turned his head aside and spat. He's not our family. Another fist smashed into her barrier, fracturing it. We're the best they could make without him. They talk about us like we're not there, not real, don't matter. All we hear is how perfect you are. How perfect we aren't. He reared back to hit her barrier again. Ah, and that's enough out of you. Naruto was on him a second later, face bloody, grabbing the blonde boy by the scruff of his neck and hauling him backwards. You've said your piece, now stop. The blonde boy rounded on him and slugged him the face. He took it on the cheek with a grunt and didn't budge. Because the arm disintegrated at the elbow. Stop fighting. You're tearing your body apart. It'll be worth it to see the light drain from her perfect eyes. Clenched knuckles snapped his head back in return. She's not perfect and neither are you. Because of you. A hand caught his wrist, stopping him short. And I'm sorry for that. The blonde boy balked. What? I'm sorry I wasn't there. When he tried to slug him with the other arm, Dad caught that too. So sorry. She knew he would. Sorry for everything. I can't even begin to imagine what you and your siblings must have gone through. I can't change the past. I would if I could. But I can make up for that now. Golden chakra sparked in his palms, swelling bright. The blonde boy balked, eyes bulging. Wait. No. I'm not waiting. Never again. Golden chakra flowed from his wrists and into the blonde boy's body. An explosion of light followed, larger and louder than the rest. And the smoke cleared. A nameless blonde boy lay sprawled on his stomach, coughing and hacking, blinking furiously with both eyes as he struggled to reorient himself. Raised both arms. Stood on heeled legs. Tawny blonde hair hung over his forehead, yet did nothing to disguise his shock. He didn't look that much younger than her. 11 at a stretch. Oh god, they must have started experimenting on him right after they lost her. Naruto knelt before him and held out a hand. Joshua. The blonde boy blinked, not quite comprehending. What? Joshua. Dad repeated softly, crouching down before him fully, wearing a wan smile. Before your sister was born, we picked out 2 names. Samantha for our first girl, and Joshua for our first boy. That's your name. Eve found herself hiccuping a little, tears stinging at her eyes. It was such a dad thing to do. She couldn't help herself. Her siblings couldn't speak, but she could tears in their eyes all the same. They felt as she did. Josh, meanwhile, regarded the hand as if he expected it to bite him. A name. Yes, and it's all yours. Naruto stared down at him. Do you remember the facility where you came from? Josh nodded slowly. Warily. Hopefully, like a dog kicked one too many times. And yet. He reached up. Clasped his hand. Dad patiently hauled him up to his feet. Great. He grinned with all his teeth. Let's go find your mother. Priority call for you, sir. Cecil Stedman looked up from his desk with a world-weary sigh. Well, it wasn't so much the desk he was sighing at as the paperwork atop it. That was the bane of every human, super or otherwise. No one could escape it. Not even him. Filling out these forms wouldn't save him from what was coming, but they had helped to center his mind, steel himself for coming storm. He'd known this moment would arrive. Hell, he'd known for a while now. Ever since he saw the news. There was no point in running, no use in ignoring it. Time to face the Reaper. He accepted the phone. Thank you, Ferguson. His second saluted, eyes damp behind his glasses. It's been an honor, sir. None of that. He snorted at him. This will all work itself out. One way or another. Seal the room on your way out. Sir. Ferguson did as he asked. Good man. He'd run the GTA well if worse came to worst. No point putting this off any longer. They'd get impatient otherwise. He set the phone to his ear. Stedman here, talk to me. Hello, Cecil. His blood ran cold with those words, no. His blood was ice in his veins, and he was frozen where he sat, spellbound, helpless to listen to the eerily calm, almost jovial voice on the other end of the line. How have you been, old friend? It's been only 12 years, but it feels like we just spoke yesterday. Funny how time flies, ain't it? He knew that voice. Once upon a time, it had belonged to a dear friend. A good man. An honorable man. Someone he could trust to watch his back. A beacon of sunshine. A haven of hope. Atlas itself, a titan bearing the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had offered shade for those dying of despair and help for the helpless, all without asking for anything in return. A man who had vanished 12 years ago, taking his pregnant wife with him, all without so much as a word. 3 guesses what he was now after that stunt on the highway. First 2 didn't count. You're dead. I nearly was. I got better. How did you even get this number? Let's answer your question with another question. His friend's voice rang with sardonic amusement. Steven Erickson. Ring any bells? Yeah. The name did. More than a few. I know the name. Then you should know that I'm going to kill him. He blew out a sigh. Naruto, no. No. You don't seem to understand your situation here. He heard the barest hint of a growl in the whiskered warrior's voice. I'm not asking for permission. This is not a negotiation. This is not a warning. This is not a lie. This is truth. This is a courtesy call, so you know what's about to happen. His brow furrowed. And why are you being so gracious about this? Because I want to know if you're involved in what he did. Something clicked in the back of his head. Damn it, Steven. What did you do? So that was it, then. Ericsson's little off-the-books project, the scheme he hadn't cared to hear of, the work that kept draining money with little to show for it. He'd written it off as another harebrained scheme, one he'd have to put a word in eventually, but the man had been funding most of it with his own money, so he'd not flagged it as a concern or checked it. He should have known. The man was ambitious, but he meant well most of the time. Ericsson loves his country, he began slowly, hedging his bets. I assure you, anything he did, whatever he did for the good of this country. Are you defending him? The deadly calm of his voice sent a sudden shiver shooting through him, as though he stood here in the room with him. Tell me you're not defending him. Because those sound like the words of a dead man. Are you a dead man, Cecil? Shit on a stick. He recognized that nuke for what it was and backed off, wisely choosing not to pursue that avenue of thought. It went somewhere he wasn't willing to go. He heaved a sigh. What are you going to do, and how much time do I have to cover it up? I'm going to find your friend and feed him his heart. After that. I haven't decided. What comes next depends entirely on the condition of someone most dear to me. Someone who may be imprisoned and tortured by the black ops of the good old GTA, just as I was for the last 12 years. Shit. Polly. She'd vanished too, hadn't she? Double shit. Cecil flinched visibly. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? You've grown paranoid in your old age, Cecil. He could see him. He shouldn't be able to. The room was sealed and there were no windows. Blasted freaky abilities of his. What are you going to do? Send the Guardians of the Globe after me? Please. We both know how that'll end. Who does that leave? Omni-Man. Laughter swallowed his silence, harsh and bitter. By all means. Send him in. I'd just love to see Nolan again. He still owes me for introducing him to Debbie. She's probably had her son by now. Little Mark must be, 12 years old now. Maybe I ought to introduce him to Samantha. They'd get along great. Look, Cecil heaved a sigh, knowing this train had already left the proverbial station. Whatever happened to you, kid, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. If I had known, I would have done something. Oh, Cecil. His old friend almost sounded sad to say the words on the other end of the line. Is that what you think this is about? I'm not emotional about what happened to me. Pain's an old friend. I could have forgiven that. In fact, I do. I forgive you and yours for every wound inflicted upon me. Hope kindled in Cecil's chest, cradling the tiniest spark therein. Then the other boot dropped. And it dropped hard. Unfortunately for you, Naruto's voice prattled on, cool as a cucumber dunked in ice, while I'm not necessarily emotional about my pain, there's a rather hefty price indebted to me for the last 12 years your so-called friends took from me. And that price is, let's say, a cool 9 million. Every month. Cecil choked. Are you extorting me, now? I have a family to look after now, Cecil. I need that money. Wait. A family? Kids? Oh, no. God, no. Please, no. Ericsson couldn't be that stupid. After you've tended to that matter, Naruto's voice dropped an octave, thrumming with subtle menace. We can then deal with the next consequences of your coworker's short-sightedness. As I said, I am not emotional about what happened to me. I could care less about my body. I'll heal. But I am emotional about the fact that someone laid their hands on my wife. Cecil sensed the coming eruption, hung his head, and held the phone away from his face. Oh, dear. Here it comes. My wife. Even then Naruto's response rattled the receiver, briefly deafening him in one ear. And not just her, oh no. My unborn daughter. But your boys didn't stop there. They used me to create 4 more children and tortured them besides. Didn't know about that either, did you? By your silence, I'm going to assume you leveled my house as well, just to rub salt in the wound. Did you kill my dog too, or did you have the decency to let him die a natural death? He had to give him something. Calm him down. Your house is still standing. The poignant pause answered him. And then. Is it, now? It is. He was babbling he knew, speaking quickly, but it was all he could do to fend him off. I made certain of it. He had if only to honor the memory of a man he thought long since dead. It's under heavy guard, had to be, considering the sheer arsenal he kept there, and a maid comes by to clean the place twice a week. We had your pooch buried behind the house. He died of old age 3 years ago. Your costume's right where you left it, I swear to you, headband and all. That was kind of you. His voice had returned to that same eerie, icy calm. We'll have a place to lay our heads after this, at least. But no amount of money or prayers or power or favors or even divine intervention can pay for what's happened to my family, Cecil, no, for that, he heard a knife being drawn over the line and his heart plummeted into his stomach. I want a pound of flesh. Say something. Had to say something. Now hold on, I'm not involved in this mess. You are. Either you were deliberately a part of it or you failed to notice it. One makes you guilty, the other by association. Sweat beaded across his brow. Kid, I didn't know. I swear on my mother's grave, I didn't have anything to do with this. A noncommittal hum answered him. We'll see if you sing the same tune when we meet face to face. His throat closed. Ha. Once I'm done working my way up the chain of command, you and I are going to sit down and have a talk. His voice dropped to a whisper, as though he were in the room itself. But before that, a pound of flesh, Cecil. Be it a hand, a foot, an eye, or even your tongue. I don't care where you take it from. If you haven't the stomach for it by the time I find you, then I swear, the horrors I'm about to inflict upon all Erickson will seem a tender mercy by the time I'm finished with you. The line went dead. Cecil slumped with a shudder. He lifted the phone again and dialed a number of his own. Ferguson. He rasped into the receiver. Get me Erickson's coordinates. Now. And put the Guardians of the Globe on standby. Another awful, terrifying thought occurred to him. And where the hell is Omni-Man? How was your call? Naruto stepped out of the phone booth, wearing a smile as plastic as the phone he'd just discarded. It went great, sweetie. He patted Eve's head, grinning a little when she scowled and jerked back. Just needed to talk to an old friend. Thank the sage he'd learned those silencing seals years ago. Wouldn't do for the little ones to have heard what he'd said now, would it? They were scarred enough. The last thing they needed was overhearing their father promising swift bloody vengeance against those who had wronged them. Let the kids enjoy a little junk food before they blitzed the lab. They'd earned it. You're angry, aren't you? Samantha wasn't so easy to placate. She'd always been a clever girl and she fell into step with him now, eyes never leaving his. Because of Mom. Not just Mom. He planted a hand on her shoulder. Because of what happened to you. All of you. She hung her head a little at that. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you during the fight. He tutted softly. Your family. You shouldn't have to fight each other. Eve didn't respond. Ah. So many emotions. Naruto briefly found himself trapped amidst them all. Currently he pined somewhere between joy and hate, love and fear. Joy, because he'd finally saved his children and reunited most of the family. Hatred for what had been done to them. Love, that they were beginning to get along, even if only just. And fear that all his efforts, this might all be in vain. A wise man once said having something to lose is what makes life worth living. True words were never spoken. Right now he stood to lose a great deal if he couldn't protect his family. Joshua and his siblings kept stealing glances at Samantha, still wary of Harold expect little Amanda. As the youngest she'd latched onto Eve wholeheartedly and hadn't let her out of her sight since. Still, with the worst of the danger past and most misunderstandings settled, their attitude toward Samantha had begun to thaw. Slowly but surely. Time was said to heal all wounds, and he suspected it would take a great deal of it before things were settled, but they were making progress. Brandyworth helped, of course. The man rather liked being an uncle, it seemed. He could help the other three learn to talk faster. Thoughts for later. Speaking of thoughts, he couldn't help but ponder something else. Now that he'd healed the kids, would they gain powers of their own? Luca's unique violet eyes suggested he just might if they were what he thought they were. He'd need to keep a close eye on him and he'd seen Josh stretch an arm earlier to smack an annoying fly, but he wasn't sure about the girls. Jessica and Amanda seemed normal, but then again, they were younger than the others. Superpowers or not, they all had some form of his chakra and were clearly more durable than your average child. Things were going to be noisy around here for a while yet. Harama snorted. You always wanted a big family. The thought brought him some small comfort. Alright. He raised his voice. Everyone done with their burgers? He received a quick affirmative from Joshua, followed by a wave of silent nods from Jessica, Amanda, and Luca. Messy eaters, those three. He wasn't surprised. They'd never been taught better. He paused to wipe a bit of ketchup from each their faces and received dazzling grins in return. They might not know how to speak yet, but their faces said it all. They'd accepted him. Completely and utterly. The trust of a child was a precious thing indeed, and he swore not to waste it. It's time, then. The lab wasn't hard to find. With Joshua leading the way, they tracked it down only an hour outside the city. It didn't look like much on the outside. Little more than a rickety old building as a front, it looked abandoned from the outside. He supposed that was the point. No one but the lowest of the low would even consider coming out here, and who would believe them if they said they saw anything? No one would even think to enter it, were it not for the heavy metal door. Despite the dents that someone had hammered into it, the frame stood sturdy and strong. He swung it up and revealing a dead end. And then a keypad erized out from the center of the wall. Allow me. Brandyworth stepped up. If I know Erickson, he's too arrogant to have changed the code. Naruto waved him on. By all means. Nudging a curious Joshua and Eve aside, he began to punch in a long series of numbers. Then another, placing his finger lower then higher, lower again. A low chime greeted him, the keypad flashed green, then peeled away, revealing a corridor and a long series of stairs leading downward, descending into darkness. Joshua heaved a sigh. They know we're coming. Good. It would be boring if they didn't put up a fight. Eve quirked a brow. Yersu, this is the place. Feel sweared. I am. Brandyworth laid a trembling hand on the walls, head bowed. I could never forget it. Your mother went into labor within these very walls. Josh grit his teeth. This is the place where they made us, sister. They tortured us here, all for their own gain. Don't lose your nerve now. I'm not. She rounded on him with a sputter. I just want to see mom. She has to be here, right? The other children made eager noises. All save Josh, who looked away with an annoyed grimace. Naruto patted his shoulder. It's all right. They can't hurt you anymore. No one will ever do that to you again. That at least seemed to soothe the boy. Thank you. What are you going to do once you're inside? He conjured a Rasengan to his right hand. Watch and see. Erickson was happy to see him. Cecil. He granted him a wry smile and open arms as he teleported in from headquarters. So nice of you to finally come down and visit. Come to see our moment of glory. He struck him. It was a good punch. One he was proud of. It caught Stephen right in the mouth and the nose besides, bloodied the latter, and sent a tooth whistling to the floor. The man reeled back, clutching at his face with a look of absolute disbelief in his eyes. Completely worth bruising a knuckle or two. Erickson was a soldier through and through. He didn't punch back. He simply lifted his chin. I can explain. Explain. You idiot. He thrust a finger up under his nose, cutting him off. What were you thinking? Do you have any idea what you've done? The situation is under control. Erickson dabbed at his bloody nose with a handkerchief, refusing to even rub his cheek. We've dispatched 4 of our best subjects to retrieve him and his daughter. They will soon be within our grasp. Our grasp? Cecil slashed a hand through the air. Don't deflect blame. I had no part in this. His old friend sneered at him. Didn't you? You turned a blind eye to my work. You ignored me, time and again. Because it wasn't going anywhere. He flung up his arms. I thought you were experimenting with dead tissue or something. Had I known you were holding a living nuke in your basement, I would have said something. Erickson made to speak and he snarled him into silence. Now I'm stuck playing damage control. You've unleashed someone I could never truly control. I could only ever aim him. Guess where he's aimed at now. We can handle him. Handle him? He started laughing. You idiot. Erickson bridled. What's so funny? What's so funny, you ask? Cecil took a step back to master himself, failed, then rounded on him again. You are. Because you refuse to comprehend the situation before you. Do you really think you'll succeed where hundreds have failed? We all know this story. It's been told hundreds of times, passed down throughout history. The names and faces may change, but the roles remain the same. You'll see what happens when you take everything from him. He'll keep coming back. We've prepared countermeasures. Another punch sent him sprawling to the floor. Screw your countermeasures. Cecil hammered a shoe into his ribs while he was down, drawing a pained gasp from him. He isn't immortal. He doesn't have to be. He just refuses to die. We have a word for that where I come from. I doubt you'd understand it. I don't need to understand. Erickson snarled back. The samples we have, the DNA we've collected, it could jumpstart humanity 100 years into the future. At what cost? Cecil crouched down before him, glaring bloody red daggers at the man he'd once called friend. I'll let you in on a little secret, old friend. In the end, it's not about who's the strongest, fastest, or even the smartest. It's about not giving up. And he won't. Ever. Not while you have what is his. And you are the one he really wants. The man behind the curtain. The one who concocted this brilliant scheme. You took his wife, you idiot. Her and his unborn child, and then because your sheer stupidity knows no bounds, you used them to make more. How did you think he would react? No matter what you do to him now, you'll only make him stronger. So you see, what's so funny is that he stood and pointed past a stray scientist, that guy over there, everyone in that facility of yours. All of you are, as they say, already dead. You simply haven't realized it yet. The tremor rattled the building from above. May God have mercy on your sorry souls. Cecil looked to the ceiling and wished, not for the first time, that he'd taken up smoking. Because he will not. And on that facility is decommissioned effective immediately. A fresh tremor rattled the building, causing Erickson to look up. And all of you? You no longer work for the GTA. The tremor rattled the building. Steven sputtered. You can do this to me, Cecil. Idiot. Even now he railed against the inevitable. Have. You're fired, Erickson. Cecil. He teleported away just as he heard the shouting start. Knock knock. A familiar voice boomed. I've come for my wife. Maybe the slaughter would the kid occupied long enough for him to find a solution to all this. Or barring thought a countermeasure. God help them all. Cecil had been here. He'd sensed him for a split second before used the teleporter to bolt back. No matter. He'd deal with him later. For now, he only had one thought, one target, one objective. Naruto crashed down through the ceiling at speed, struck a soldier and stomped down, riding him to the ground as one might a surfboard, leaving a red ruin in his wake. He kicked off the corpse and launched himself at a second soldier, body blazing gold. He mowed the man down, followed by a third, a fourth, a fifth now, fighting his way through guard after guard, soldier after soldier, sparing none. Behind him, through vision glazed red by rage, he was vaguely aware of Samantha and Joshua lighting after him, carrying their younger siblings and Brandyworth between them. He lingered long enough to make certain they were safe, then pulled onward. Dad. He heard Eve shout. Wait. He didn't. How could he? Holly. Where was she? She had to be here. She must. If she wasn't, no. Don't think about that. On and on he fought, tearing through everything in his path. There was no subtlety to it. No need. Let them know he was coming. Let them feel the fear and experience the dread he'd felt all those years ago. He'd pay it all back and tear it out of their hides. Quite suddenly a door parted ahead of him. He barreled through it without a second thought. The room beyond was green and gray, all cold metal and steel. He could see the consoles and tanks mounted within, but didn't care for anything else. And so the subject comes home. Because there, standing in the center of the room, flanked by guards. The dark-skinned man with close-cropped hair awaited him, clad in a crisp blue suit. Looked like he'd seen better days. He frowned, confusion briefly breaking through the rage. Have we met? You don't remember me. The stranger scowled and wiped a line of blood from his nose. I offered you a chance at greatness. You refused and so forced my hand. Realization dawned. This was Steven Erickson. The rage came on again, stronger than ever. He started forward. I'm going to feed you your own heart. I wouldn't do that, were I you. The man held up something in his hand. A squat rectangular device he didn't recognize. His thumb hovered just over a large red button set within. Everything I've done, I did for the good of this country. I won't let you take that away. He took another step. Is that little red button supposed to scare me? The man balked. Pardon? You're like Cecil. You just don't understand. I don't give this, he snapped his fingers, about your precious government or your country or any of it. You touched my family. He blurred into the soldiers and slaughtered them in an instant, kicking and crushing their skulls. Blood spattered everywhere. You die screaming. Go on. Erickson sneered at him, unfazed despite it all. Do something else you regret. After all, now that I have you, your partner isn't needed anymore. He looked to the scientist beside him. Do it. Do what? The man keyed a quick command in on the console. With a wail and an alarm, another tube rose from the floor. There was something inside it. No, that wasn't quite right. Someone. His knees hit the floor. It was her. Holly. They shaved her head bald, put screws in her skull, hooked her up to some ghastly metal contraption, and filled her with wires and tubes to keep her breathing, but he knew her face, gaunt and emaciated though it was. Her eyes stared listlessly ahead, seeing nothing, nearly rolled back into her head. One twitched as he looked on, unable to see him. He couldn't bear to look at her. Where was she? Where was the woman he'd fallen in love with? Where was the witty girl who could light a room with a laugh? Where was the proud mother-to-be who practically glowed during her pregnancy? This wasn't her. This wasn't his wife. This was a hollow shell of a human, a living corpse. Samantha stumbled in behind him at last, saw the woman in the tube, and froze. Voice that. Ah, and there she is, the hero of the hour. At the sight of his prize, Erickson's smile became an ugly grimace. Where do you think all your brothers and sisters came from? Not just Daddy dearest, oh no. That, my dear, he gestured with the remote, is your mother. And if you do not do exactly as I say, she will die. Eve whimpered. It was a sound that tore his heart to pieces. Oh God, she's still alive. Technically alive. The government agent held up a hand. We didn't get her back up and running in time to save her from massive brain damage. But, he scoffed and rolled his broad shoulders in a shrug, well, we both know she only had one use anyway. Naruto lurched to his feet. You did this to her. Yao you. His world went red. He couldn't think. Couldn't move. Breathe. You're old, Naruto. Erickson's lip curled, mistaking his silence for weakness. Out of touch. You've forgotten the laws of the jungle. The strong will always rule over the weak. Harama uttered not a word. None were necessary. Calm descended upon him, cold and eerie. Well said. He stepped in, blurred, and slammed a hand through Ericsson's stomach. It burst out his back in a shower of scarlet. Ericsson dropped the remote as he crumpled with a shriek, frantically trying to keep his stomach in. Naruto ripped his limb free, kicked the remote away, and rounded on him. Hurts, doesn't it? Another blow tore Ericsson's arm clean off at the shoulder, momentum hurtling him across the room. Where do you think you're going? He snarled when the bastard tried to crawl away. Because you're not going out the way you came in, you son of a bitch. Talking to me about the laws of the jungle. Really? He stomped down and grabbed him by the head, then smashed his face into the floor, stunning him. What was it you called me? Old. Out of touch. He beeped his head, listening to the man's pained cries, the pleas for mercy, and shouted over them. There's only one rule in this jungle. When the fox is hungry. A shadow fell over Ericsson. The man whimpered. He eats. Piranhas burst into existence around him. His jaws lunged down, caught Ericsson by the leg, and swung him into a wall, biting it off at the knee as he flew. The man went down with a gurgle. Naruto came crashing down on that bloody leg, drawing a pained shriek from him. It didn't stop there. He reached up, grabbed the man by the mouth, heedless of his begging, and squeezed. His jaw shattered with an awful crunch and was left hanging there. Tears ran from his eyes. Not good enough. He had a promise to keep. Hot fingers stabbed deep into Ericsson's chest, found purchase, and ripped his heart free. Another hole in his body. The man might have survived the first. He wouldn't the second. He held the ruined organ before him now, leaving it still beating faintly as the horrified man looked on. An angry rasp filled the air as he glared down at him. Remember what I promised you? Ericsson gurgled weakly. Now swallow. He stuffed the heart into his ruined mouth and made him do just. Then he crushed his head in his hands. The catharsis was short-lived. Mom? He whirled, finding Eve crouched before the tank, holding Polly in her arms. Someone must have broken the glass when he wasn't looking. Maybe she had. Or maybe it had been punctured in the chaos somehow. He wasn't sure. He could feel her life fading, flickering, a dying candle in the wind. No. He was moving before he realized what was happening, dropping to his knees as the others poured into the room. No, no. He barely heard the lot of them. No, no, no. Not like this. It couldn't end like this. He wouldn't let it. Trembling fingers cupped her cheek. Holly. A raspy groan answered him behind the mask. He swore softly. Oh, sweetheart, what did they do to you? Dad, you can fix this, right? Ever turned desperate, pleading eyes on him. Fix her. You're a healer. You said so. He closed his eyes and pushed all of his chakra to the fore. I'm gonna try. Kurama towered over him and burst through the ceiling above. Naruto never saw him. He was far too focused. The world went gold. Nolan sighed in the skies. Oh, great. He's back. Thought that bastard died. He most certainly hadn't, or if he had, he looked pretty good for a dead man. Because a giant golden fox had just burst from the building below him and laid waste to everything around it. Nope, he decided. No need to get involved in this disaster. He'd just pretend he didn't see anything or hear anything. Light. She could see it. Feel it. Taste it. Touch it. Smell it. Hear it even, strange as that might sound. It sang to her like the sweetest of songs. Poured into her ravaged mind, surged through her senses until it was all she knew, all she craved, all she wanted. It chilled her body and burned through her blood, freezing and scorching her all at once. Yet the light was also a comfort to her. It was familiar. Was that the right word? She thought it was. The light wrapped around her close, held her snug and tight, as though she were a caterpillar and this, her chrysalis. It was in the light that she was reborn. In the light that she finally had her first coherent thought in 12 years. Who am I? The light provided answers. Polly. An impossibly deep voice rumbled from all around her. Your name is Polly. You've been asleep for a very long time. It sounded right but she couldn't remember properly. Her head hurt. Thinking hurt. Something was wrong. Why couldn't she think? There was a terrible pressure in her skull, an awful ache, but she couldn't lift her hands to touch her head. Couldn't move at all, come to think of it. But thinking it was getting easier. The pressure in her head had begun to fade. Already little more than a distant memory. With its absence came questions, so many questions, one after the other, each more poignant than the last. Where am I? What happened? Why have I been asleep? How long was I unconscious? Where is she? Where's my daughter? Daughter? She remembered now. She had a daughter. A girl. Samantha Eve Uzumaki. She'd been close to term with her, only a few weeks out. There was more, isn't there? Something flashed through her mind. The man with bright blue eyes, tawny blue hair, and whiskered cheeks. Clad in an orange turtleneck and battered blue jeans, he sat beside a window, watching the rain. He turned to face her suddenly, saw her, and his face lit up in a smile that took her breath away. Rather than stand, he knelt and offered a hand to her. There was a box in his palm within Ida ring. His lips were moving, and though she couldn't make out the words, she could deny the sudden surge of feeling that his smiling face conjured. His name. What his name? Oh God, why couldn't she remember his name? The memory seared through her brain, so sharp and painful that it tore a gasp from her in the light. No, she realized. It wasn't just light. There was another word for it. Right there, on the tip of her tongue. She wrinkled her nose in the void and poured every fiber of her being into remembering. Chakra. Yes, that was the word. Someone had wrapped her in a golden chrysalis of chakra. It's for your own good. The deep voice came on again. You were a pause followed. Well, you were clinically dead at one point. You're barely alive right now. Hearing the voice stirred something in Polly's heart. She felt something click together in her fractured psyche. She remembered that voice belonging to someone. Something quite large and not human. She felt a brief bleed of raw, nameless terror, accompanied by a deep calm. The voice would never hurt her. She didn't know why she recalled that, but it was an immutable thought even among her fractious thoughts. She couldn't see outside this cocoon of chakra, but she could feel a presence, old and deep as the sea nearby. The name came to her in a flash. Hashirama. How could she remember him and not the man? It wasn't fair. Not fair at all. Well, at least you remember something in that scatterbrain of yours. The wan ghost of a smile touched her pale lips. Mean as ever. Hoarse laughter answered her retort. I say it as I see it. Her mirth didn't last long at all. Where am I? This is your mind. What's left of it? That didn't sound so good. It isn't. His reply sent her hopes plummeting into the very pit of her stomach. My chakra is the only thing holding you together at the moment. Your body has suffered severe brain damage and massive organ failure. That's not something easily fixed, even for Naruto. Naruto. The name was a thunderbolt in Polly's mind, a searing flash that burned away the fog shrouding her mind. Memories blitzed her one after the other as the past caught up with her in a maelstrom of emotion. Who he was, what he'd been to her, what he'd become. Friend. Lover. Husband. Father to her one and only daughter. About that. Polly blinked, not quite comprehending until the dread came. About what? No. Horror dawned soon thereafter. Don't tell me I lost the baby. No, Samantha's quite alright. Kurama almost sounded sheepish and rather embarrassed. That worried her. It's just well. Did Naruto have an affair while I was out? Her brow furrowed. I told him I was fine with him seeing other women. Unfortunately, no. The fox made a nose caught somewhere between a snarl and a sigh. He's been quite faithful. And to think, I'd almost forgotten how much of an insatiable let you were. She grinned to mask her anxiety. Sorry, not sorry. War Woman has a fantastic ass. I won't apologize for wanting to tap that. He saw right through her as ever. You're deflecting. I can feel your heartbeat spiking. But that, her temper sparked. Then spit it out already, you overgrown furball. You might have a few more children than you remember. Ollie's brain fizzled right out. Big Fox say what now? He's in a pod the two of you, I swear. Guama told her then, in no uncertain terms. What her husband had suffered. What had been done to her, the surprise awaiting her when she awoke, then Finila's sorry state of her brain, and just how long she had been asleep for lack of a better term. It was a sobering tale, one that would have broken anyone else. But it didn't break Polly. Oh, no. It did something far worse. The words lodged in her throat. They did what to me? She'd always had a temper. Naruto loved it. He often enjoyed winding her up and letting her loose. Said she was cute when she was angry. She never understood why. The anger she felt now, no, the apoplectic rage. Not cute. At all. Polly, no. Just calm down. Polly, yes. Let me out. She gnashed her teeth, struggling against the warm chakra that held her. She would have thrashed her way awake if he hadn't bound her so securely in the cocoon. Let me out right now. Let me see my babies. Let me kill the bastards who did this to me. Stop struggling. If you wake up in your current state, you'll die. Do you want that? She subsided with a scowl. No. Then calm down and let me finish healing you. The sullen pout crossed her face. I want to see my babies. And you will if I have anything to say about it. Kurama almost sounded amused by her anger. Feisty little thing. If I didn't know better, I'd swear you were half Uzumaki. What happened to me, exactly? There was an attack. I'm a bit fuzzy on the details myself. So was she, come to think of it. There had been this. She wasn't sure. Everything was so scrambled. There had been someone. No, several someones. She recalled Naruto flinging her behind him. A pillar of light falling down from the heavens. dust, dirt, nothing. Her memories were fuzzy, but she remembered the pain, the sting of betrayal. Two figures standing among the smoke and rubble, hazy and indistinct voices. There. I honored my part of the bargain. Now keep yours. Ericsson's voice had answered, the slimy toad, oozing with patriotic pride. But of course. It had been someone they knew. Someone they trusted, someone who turned on them. Of that much she was certain. Your body is going to be very weak for quite a while. Kurama's voice mercifully tugged her out of her fuzzy memories before her own paranoia could consume her. You've suffered catastrophic damage to your internal organs and been kept alive on fluids and life support, to say nothing of the injuries to your brain. Whatever they did to you, it took its toll. Malnutrition is one thing, but there's only so much I can heal. I had to regrow most of your internal organs once we peeled you out of that suit, and even then. He was building up to something else. She knew she wouldn't like it. How bad is it? I'm not certain. The old fox sounded almost aggrieved. You might have several decades ahead of you or a few years. You may never fully recover. Only time will tell. Her eyes stung. Oh, those bastards. Those absolute stinking freaking bastards. Alright. Okay. Deep breaths. So what if her body was failing? Where there's a will, there's a way. She was still alive here and now, for the moment. Nothing else mattered. The future could be dealt with later. If there was future. There had to be a future for her. There must be. Because if there wasn't, she knew a certain blonde would break. Don't tell Naruto. She had to be the one to broach that subject. I have to. He already knows. Kurama's words tore a gasp from her. He's hearing every bit of this. Oh. Just great. That was lovely. His heart must be breaking. She just knew it. You may also experience gaps in your memory. She already was. She could feel them. There were holes in her thoughts, for lack of a better words. Gaps. Try as she might, Polly couldn't remember everything. Little things like her favorite color, least favorite food, or the salty spray of the sea. The thought brought tears to her eyes. Had she always been this emotional? Or had that memory been taken from her, too? She was sure there were other things she'd forgotten, important things, but right now, none of those mattered. I can recall the important bits. She steeled herself, mastering her nerves. Nothing else matters. They also shaved your head. Not her hair. It took forever to grow, it thought long. Bastards. Her old friend tried to laugh at that. He failed. At least it will grow back, he think. Holly felt her brow furrow in anger. Wake me up. Now. I've slept long enough. You won't be able to stay awake for very long. It'll be long enough, she growled. Lem see my family. He relented and the chrysalis of chakra fell away. And in that instant, her eyes opened. Her eyes opened. It was an abrupt and sudden thing, Naruto found. One moment she was sound asleep on the floor, effectively dead to the world. In the next her eyes snapped open. She saw him, he saw her, and in turn glimpsed the flash of primordial panic pulsing through her gaze. There were no words. She reached up with one hand and cupped his cheek, then squeezed it gently. Are you real? I am. He choked out. Her eyes glimmered with tears. This isn't a dream. Naruto shook his head. It was that which broke the dam deep within Polly. His wife sobbed and clutched at him. Uncaring of her nakedness, her weakness, or even the now discarded cybernetics left strewn out on the floor around them. She wrapped both arms around him and held tight. Only having eyes for him and nothing else. She was so light. He could lift her with one arm and very nearly did just that until she started talking again. How did you get out? What happened? Where? She coughed harshly, her throat still dry. Where the hell is? You're alright. He whispered fiercely before she could panic. Everything's going to be alright now. Ollie didn't answer that. Just clung to him all more. He pulled back to get a better look at her and very nearly wished he hadn't. Her violet eyes were sunken in her head, rimmed with dark shadows, her face made gaunt and lean by the years. Chakra was a mighty fine thing, but could do little for malnutrition or frailty. She would need food and rest. A lot of the latter. It served as a painful reminder. Kurama had done the best he could, but she didn't have a tailed beast of her own to speed her healing along. She was painfully thin too, he could see the bones poking through her skin. Sage above, she looked so small. Her head kissed his chest. You haven't aged a day. No fair. A peal of bitter laughter burst out of him, sharp and hysteric. Neither have you. Ha! She rasped out a laugh of her own. Liar. I feel awful. Probably look even worse. She did. Was she the same person he remembered? Was he? Were either of them? They'd both been changed by their experiences. But then she looked at him. Really looked at him, as she had 12 years ago. Her eyes met his and he was lost. That was it. He was done, doomed and decided, just as he'd been on that day so long ago. No matter how weary she might be, how hurt by time, she was still his wife. Looking back, he wasn't sure who kissed him first. One moment he was holding her close, then her lips were on his, and there she was, melting into him with the sweetest sigh. Even weak and trembling from her near-death experience, she still managed a wan smile from him. "Let's go home." She clung a little tighter to him. "I'd bang your brains out right now if I want so drop-dead tired." "Holly." "What?" She tilted her head. "You've never had a problem with me talking like this before." He made a quick gesture, trying to indicate the kids. Mercifully, her remark sailed right over the younger children's heads. Not so Samantha and Joshua. Both understood her words, and both made gagging noises. Watamanute. Polly stiffened in his arms, then started squirming once she realized they weren't alone. "They're here. As in right here. Let me see." Samantha Eve Uzumaki shuffled forward, face hopeful. She'd taken that silly mask of hers off and now wrung it between her hands anxiously. "Are you really?" Holly blinked quickly. Once. Twice. Thrice. She'd never laid eye on Samantha in her life, yet he saw the moment she saw her, she knew her as her own. A mother always knew. She had carried her for 9 months after all, and while she may have missed 12 years of her life, that was no fault of her own. Call it hope, call it magic, or just simple maternal instinct. She reached out an arm for her without zero hesitation. No at all. The smile that split her face in that instant could have outshone the very sun itself. "Oh, my." She laughed aloud, "Just look at you. My little Samantha, how you've grown. Come here." Complete and utter acceptance. Anything else would have broken little Eve outright. Naruto had no real way of knowing, but in that instant, the last lingering loyalty their daughter felt toward her foster parents truly withered and died. She burst into tears and rushed forward into Polly's arms. Her mother, his wife, dragged her close, murmuring softly into her ear. There, she crooned. "You don't have to say anything. Mommy's here." Nor were her other 4 siblings left out in the rain. Polly noticed them not a nanosecond later. Joshua was her next victim. There could be no escape from a mother's searching gaze, and he was no exception. Naruto almost pitied him. Almost. There was no getting away from Polly once she had eye on you, and their son was firmly in her sights. "And who do we have here?" She peeked over Eve's shoulder at the stunned boy, still holding their daughter tight. "Don't be shy. You can talk, can't you?" He bowed his head, face gone red. "I can." "Oh, you're shy." Still holding Eve close, she looked to him. "I take it he's ours too, then. He has your whiskers." "He certainly doesn't my temper." Naruto coughed into a fist to hide the rueful smile of his past. "That will be Joshua." Holly perked up. "You named him after my father?" Naruto nodded. "Just like you wanted. Such a darling boy. Come here." She beckoned quickly at the blonde boy. "Let me have a look at you." Young Joshua flushed under her gaze, but was helpless to resist. The moment he got within arm's reach, Polly yanked him down. He put up a token resistance as she pressed his head against her collarbone and wrapped a thin arm around him, squeezed for all she was worth. In a matter of moments he was trapped beside a rather embarrassed Eve. "Oh, look at you." Polly giggled, rubbing her forehead against his. "You're the spitting image of your grandfather. I wish he could have met you." Naruto nudged Polly with his elbow, idly reminding her that she wasn't done. Her tired eyes lit up at the reminder, and she craned her bruised neck, looking past him. There had been no escape for the terrible trio before, and there certainly wasn't now. Not that they looked like they wanted to do any such thing, mind you. And the other 3. Jessica, Luca, and Amanda. He rattled off their names, indicating each in turn. The older siblings shuffled forward, with little Amanda nestled firmly between the 2 of them. Holly practically squealed. "They're so small." "Well, don't just stand there. Join in. We're having a group hug." Amanda, Jessica and Luca couldn't speak, but they jumped her with happy noises all the same and held tight, crowding in with the rest. "They don't know how to talk," Naruto whispered in a quiet aside. "We're working on that." "I certainly hope so." "Oh, and you've named them all without me." She tried to give his arm a spirited smack, but didn't have the strength for it. "I've missed so much." "We both have." He crouched down and joined in on their little embrace. "There's plenty of time to make it up." The words reopened a pit in his stomach even as he said them. Neither wanted to mention the elephant in the room. The fact that she might not have all that much time left. No. He refused to dwell on the possibility. He'd heal her every day if he had to. And if that didn't work, there had to be another way of preserving her mind. Or moving her soul to another body. He knew people. Had contacts of his own. There were a lot of people out there who owed him favors, and he'd happily cash them all in if it meant saving her. "We'll make it last." He muttered. "We have to." She smiled at him, oh so sadly. It hurt more than words. Even now he could sense the struggle in her, the sheer energy she was expending just to breathe and keep her eyes open. He knew she was trying to put on a brave face for the children. Inside he could feel her hurt. 12 years of torture. 144 months of pain. 4,383 days of loneliness. And she had barely been alive for most of it. Nevertheless, she did her level best to hug them all at once, all the more difficult by years of being kept in the tank. Suddenly, she yawned. Her eyes drooping. "I'm sleepy. Here, let's get you up." He swept her up in his arms and stood. "Alright, kids." He raised his voice, marshalling even in the others. "We're leaving. Someone find Brandyworth and let's go." "Are you out of your mind?" Cecil bristled into his headset. "What the hell are you doing? I told you to stay on standby. And let your failure taint us as well." His earpiece crackled with taut anger, boiling over with wrath. "No. Now wait just a second. If he sees you now, I guarantee he'll go berserk." His warning fell on deaf ears. The line was already dead. He flung the headset down with a snarl. "Damn it." A dark haze swirled over the ruined lab. Noxious black smoke poured from shattered windows, tumbled out broken doors, billowed into the sky as the searing flames pushed it ever higher. Soon enough the very clouds themselves were tainted by the inferno left behind. Once fluffy white nimbuses stained an ominous ugly gray as the horizon darkened for miles in every direction, threatening to blot out the very sun. Kurama had done his work well. No one would be able to use this place as a base for years, if not decades. All that remained was a single exit point for one man and his family, and that too would be collapsed once they departed. Naruto didn't care for anything beyond that. If never saw this place again, it would be too soon. If there were any survivors, they were summarily trapped in the burning rubble and left to die. As far as he was concerned, every man and woman working in this facility was guilty. They knew what they were doing, what they were working, what they countenanced. Let them burn for all he cared. Let them rot. Smoke ballooned outwards now as he stormed up the steps and into daylight, still cradling a sleepy Polly in his arms. The children trailed anxiously behind him, with a rather haggard Brandyworth bringing up the rear. The man kept glancing at Polly, wanting to make certain she was alright. Kind of him. He might let him stay on as a godfather of sorts to the children, certainly counted as Polly's. Unfortunately, it seemed their exit wasn't going to be as clean as their entry. He expected the police. Was prepared for the police. Even felt some small semblance of pity for the boys in blue. These were not the police. His first clue came in the form absolute silence, the lack of fear he sensed even as they ascended. His second was the steely determination he felt, mired with guilt. And the third, their anger. So much anger. Whomever was waiting for him, and there was more than one, they were proper furious, and he couldn't understand why. Ericsson's forces must have tripped the alarm, or maybe someone had simply seen the smoke and called it in. He wasn't surprised to find folks waiting for him. Cecil might have decommissioned this facility, but heroes were still heroes. He should have known someone would show up, but who was it, and why did they feel vaguely familiar to his senses? Oh dear. The mace smashed into his face just as he crested the exit. He was ready for it and turned the other cheek. Because you see, he knew this mace. Just as he did the one wielding it. "Good to see you again, war woman." He grinned around it, momentarily unable to see. "Mind getting that mace out my face? I just need to kill a few more people, take my family, and be on my way." "Naruto?" A startled voice greeted him. "Oh gods, is that really you?" "No, of course it isn't me, Holly." His voice all but dripped with sarcasm, and he rolled his eyes as he used her real name. "I'm actually an evil clone. This is all some sinister plot to take over the world. Of course it's me." At his shout, Polly stirred in his arms, sighed, then blinked blearily up at their would-be attacker. "Oh hey, it's the woman with the fantastic ass." Her words had the desired effect. War Woman jerked backward with a sputter, face burning. "Polly." A feverish grin was her reward. "Sorry, not sorry, still really want that threesome." Eve squirmed out of the exit behind them, eyes wide. Naruto waved her back. He hoped the message was clear enough. "Let me do the talking. I see she hasn't changed. Mentally, at least." War Woman looked at her more closely, noting her nakedness and frail appearance. "What happened here?" "A lot of things. None of which he felt like repeating. This is the part where you let us go. I need to get my family settled." "Family? No point hiding them now." He whistled once. Eve and Joshua filed out after him, with Jessica and Luca bringing up the rear. Little Amanda grinned gormlessly at the lot of them and even dared a little wave. Last of all came Brandyworth, looking terribly tense and ready to fling himself in front of the children if they came to harm. Which they just might. War Woman blinked rapidly, eyelids fluttering in surprise. "They look just like the two of you too." "Of course they do, silly." Polly yawned in his arms. "There are children." The remark seemed to wound War Woman. She flinched back, head twisting this way and that as she tried to take all of them in at once, essentially looking like he'd just snapped her neck. "But how?" Ahem, someone coughed. As entertaining as this little interlude is, I'm afraid you have bigger problems. Naruto looked past her, mildly nonplussed. Of course she wouldn't come alone. He looked up as 6 figures floated down from above. Well, well, well. If it isn't the Guardians of the Globe. He clicked his tongue softly. I'm honored. He remembered most of them from the good old days. There was the immortal, implacable as ever, while Red Rush flicked him a jaunty wave. Darkwing's stony countenance reflected nothing, but Aquarius looked like he'd seen a ghost. Martian Man granted him a curt nod and was that one over there the new green ghost? Interesting. Seemed the mantle had been passed on while he was out. He wondered if that slip of a girl could live up to her predecessor legacy. As he tilted. Is this the part where you arrest me? The immortal stepped forward, face carved from stone. We're not here to fight you. Well, that's good. His smile wasn't entirely feigned. I'd hate to kill you if you in front of my kids. Although, he frowned past him, noting the absence of someone. Where's Samson? Couldn't be bothered to show up. The look of shame flashed across the older man's face. Hellest his powers. Lost them? Now it was his turn to flinch. How in blazes do you lose your powers? That would be like me losing my chakra or no, not focusing on that. He held up a hand to forestall an explanation. I'm only going to ask this once. Were you involved? The immortal winced. Naruto. Were you involved? He looked upon his old friends with deadly calm, daring them to object. It's a simple question. Did any one of you, play a part in what happened the night I was attacked? Red Rush tried to intervene. Now hold on. Naruto rounded on. You lie, you die. The speedster shut right up. Alas, the immortal didn't. Have you taken leave of your senses? You can't possibly hope to take us all on at once. Not in your current state. You're right. A feral smile flashed forth, practically splitting his face. I can't. He pointed a finger upward. But he can. Kurama crashed down behind him in all his golden glory, towering over them all. Hello again, ants. Martian Man backpedaled. Aquarius and Green Ghost nearly fainted dead away. That settles it. Darkwing rumbled. It's definitely him. Boar Woman tutted. As if there were any doubt. Kurama scoffed and laid down on his haunches, towering over them all, content to watch what followed. This is the part where you start talking. Naruto declared. Or you could try to fight me. He pivoted, nimbly handed the still sleepy Polly off to a stunned Brandyworth and stepped forward, arms spread wide. On second thought, go right ahead. Come. Die. I'll slaughter you. And when you run, when you beg, when you plead, when you look up to me and cry mercy, I'll say no. How does that sound? Boar Woman tried to intervene again, bless her heart. What's happened to you? You've been through a lot, I understand, but how could you possibly understand? Naruto blinked. He hadn't been the one to say those words. He turned and found Joshua at his side, glaring furiously up at War Woman and the rest. Joshua. How could any of you? The boy shook his hand off and bowled forward, eyes blazing. We've all been through 12 years of hell. Even her. He stabbed a finger at Eve, who'd done as he'd asked and held her tongue until this very moment. Do you have any idea what that was like? We were nothing. No. Less than nothing to these people. All they wanted was a weapon. Every day we prayed for someone to save us. For a hero. He looked her up and down, damning the Guardians in an instant. Where were you? Every hero present flinched. Naruto heaved a sigh. Josh, enough. His son subsided with a scowl. Only then did he look back to the Guardians. To answer your earlier question, I am me. I have always been me. Nothing more, nothing less. His eyes met Holly's, azure piercing through cyan blue. And I never go back on my word. That's exactly what I mean. War Woman burst out, flinging up her arms. Do you even hear what you're saying? All this violence. You aren't yourself. Unfortunately for her, that was the precisely wrong thing to say at the wrong time. And just like that, his anger came roaring right back. She realized it too late. He saw it in her face. Not myself. His voice rose in a barely audible hiss. Not myself. A peal of bitter laughter escaped him as he tapped one finger to his chin. Why is that, I wonder? It's almost like something horrible happened to me. Some terrible, life-changing event that saw me and mine held captive for more than a decade. Holly winced. Naruto. No, Holly, his temper, already strained by Joshua's brief outburst, now tore free from its leash as he stabbed a finger in his old friend's face to silence her. I am talking. I have had one hell of a day. I've suffered things you can't even begin to imagine, gone through hell and back to reunite my family, and now you show up. Now. She wilted in the face of his anger, and that only made him angrier, leaving him to turn his wrath on the rest of the Guardians. None of you looked for me. I was your ally, your comrade, your friend, and you left me. He thumped a fist against his chest with every word, eyes blazing into them. You left me. We didn't know. Enough. The immortal shouldered his way between them. None of this matters right now. Loyalty always matters. His elbow cracked out, bloodying the man's nose and driving him backwards besides. The other guardians tensed. Some went for their weapons. Others just balked. Naruto rounded on them all, teeth bared, ready to fight. They thought they had the high ground even now. What a joke. If any of them had been taken, he would have moved heaven and earth to find them. He would not have stopped, wouldn't have rested. Until they were found and their kidnappers brought to justice. Then again he had the benefit of being perhaps the strongest censor on the planet. He could have found them anywhere. The same could not be said for them. Yet even so, they had their resources. They could have done something. They should have done something. Why hadn't anyone done something? Now here they were, barring his path. It made him angry. Made him want to lash out even more, but he shouldn't. Ollie was nestled in Brandyworth's arms and their kids were right behind them. But to just stand there. You're right. We failed you. War Woman's response took the wind out of his sails, if only for a moment. We searched every day for you for 3 years until all our leads dried up. You should have looked a little closer to home. He jerked a thumb over his shoulder. The GDA had me. Cecil claims he didn't know. We'll see. Now start talking. He grabbed her by the wrist before she could even think to step away. Were you involved in this or weren't you? I meant what I said before. He looked at them each in turn. If I so much as smell a lie, bodies are hitting the floor. Hashirama lifted his head from where he lay, ready to pounce at the slightest provocations. The immortal, proud as ever, wiped the blood from his nose and lifted his chin first. I had nothing to do with this madness, old friend. War Woman touched a hand to her chest. I swear I didn't know anything about this, dear heart. Red Rush clicked his tongue once. Who would I have for competition if you croaked? Green Ghost raised a hand. I wasn't even part of the Guardians back then, so. No. Darkwing shook his head, once and done. No need for more words. Aquarius floundered under his gaze. Not me. Martian Man replied similarly. Nor I. Naruto expected a lie. Falsehoods of some sort. Negative intent at the very least. And yet he sensed nothing. Not even the tiniest tremor of discontent. They weren't lying. None of them were. Which meant. None of them had anything to do with it. How? Who did that leave? He could understand being overwhelmed if 6 or 7 people jumped him at once in an unguarded moment, but that clearly wasn't the case. The Guardians of the Globe were the premier superhero team on this side of the planet, if not the entire world. Who could possibly take him by surprise and win? An uglier suspicion slithered through his mind. Could it be? No. Not him. Please not him. It just couldn't be. We'll talk on this later. He shoved the suspicion out of his mind, shook his head, and turned to take Polly back from Brandyworth. Right now, we're leaving. Get out the way. Remarkably, they did just that. War Woman even dared to lay a hand on his shoulder in passing. Where will you go? Where do you think? He shook her off. Home. After that, I've got people to interrogate and kill. Polly heaved a heavy sigh. Naruto, no. Naruto, yes. He couldn't afford to rest just yet. For he had miles to go. And promises to keep. Family. She had a family. An Hinesto goodness family. Samantha Adam Eve was still reeling from it all. In less than a day her world had been turned topsy-turvy, upside down and inside out. Nothing would be the same. She knew that now. Her life hadn't been ordinary before, sure, but now it was extraordinary. Fantastic, even. And maybe. Maybe that wasn't so bad. She'd always wanted a big family, and now she had one. She still found herself reeling from it, even as she slipped inside her house. It felt strange, looking at it now, knowing this would be the last time she ever saw it. All that remained was to collect her things and go. Did she feel guilty about this? A little, yeah. But it was obvious her not parents would never let her go. They wouldn't understand. Maybe if she was quiet and clever she could sneak in and out without anyone noticing. She'd ask Dad to wait outside. He hadn't been happy about that, but he'd agreed, if only to give her a chance to do things on her terms. Besides, someone needed to look after Mom. Momsh was alive, yeah, but she didn't look too good. She could tell just by looking at her. Josh had felt so strange having a brother. Must have realized it too, because he hadn't left her side since. The younger kids would figure it out sooner or later, she was sure. Eve crept through the door, still lost in her head, mind floating in the clouds. What she saw within brought her crashing back down to earth. Oh gods. Her parents were waiting for her in the kitchen. They didn't look happy. It might have something to do with the presents and birthday cake on the table, the multicolored balloons, or maybe the banner hanging from the wall, happily proclaiming Happy Birthday Sam in bright pink letters. Just like that she remembered. Today was her birthday, wasn't it? And she hadn't been here. Her not dad bristled at the sight of her. And where have you been? Adam, wait. Her not mom laid a hand on his, trying to calm him. Trying and failing, like always. Just calm down. Dad scoffed and sprang to his feet. Don't stick up for her. Just look. She's late for her own birthday. He took a step her way, glaring her. You couldn't even call. Her gaze strayed back to the cake. It was missing a massive chunk. 3 guesses where it went. She balked at the man she'd once called daddy. Did you eat my cake? Adam's face purpled with apoplectic rage. How dare you? Anger sparked in her. How dare she? How dare he? This wasn't the way it was supposed to be. Something ugly curdled inside her. She took one step away from him, then another. I need to go. Go? He shouted at her as she turned her back on him. Go where? His voice rose when she broke out into a run. Hey. Like it or not, we're the only family you've got. The wall behind her shattered. Wrong. She'd asked Dad to wait. And he had. He really had. Now he burst into the room like a thunderstorm, burning like the sun. I was actually willing to give you one last chance. He tutted softly as he walked over the rubble, shaking his head side to side in a grand gesture that just promised violence. How pathetic is that? I guess some things never change. Well. He brought both hands together in a sharp clap, startling her not parents. Congratulations. You blew it. Game over. Adam sputtered. And who the hell are you? Her father, you gawping little shit. He dismissed the portly man with a glance. We're leaving, princess. Pack your things. Eve scrambled backward and clutched at his sleeve. I changed my mind. There's nothing I want here. Her not mom cried out. You can't. Don't you get it? Cold blue eyes readed them where they stood, cold as ice. You never had a child, not really. You thought she was yours, but she isn't. He took his time, twisting the proverbial knife in their hearts. This girl here, my daughter, was switched with yours at birth. She's not yours. There it was, that was it, the band-aid ripped clean off. She's never been yours and she will never be yours. Never again. The hell she isn't. Adam thundered up to his, face red and puffing. Get out of here before I call the cops. Dad flung a sheaf of paper in his face. I've got a DNA test right here, courtesy of one Dr. Elias Brandyworth. You're welcome to take one of your own, or as many as you like. But the results won't change. Her mom no, Betsy, not her mom whimpered once, hands covering her mouth. No. Quiet, doormat. He loomed large over the woman she'd once called her Mothers inside. At least you tried, though you should have done better. I was willing to give you a chance at least. And then he turned to face her not father. As for you, what can I possibly say about you? He leaned closer, face writ in a fearsome scowl. You're a failure of a father. The world is lesser for having you in it. Be thankful your daughter asked me not to kill you, or you'd be a stain on the wall. As P said, he whirled away. Eve took his hand, held tight, and let him guide her back through the hole in the wall. Adam brayed loudly in her wake. Samantha Eve Wilkins. You step away from him right now. She looked back at him, green eyes narrow. No. Betsy Wilkins fell to her knees with a wail. Not so Adam. He fumbled for one of the cabinets and came up with something. Eve heard the harsh click of a gun. It was a sound she was terribly familiar with after today. Her eyes closed. No. Surely not. He wouldn't be that stupid, could he? You let her go right now. Who was she kidding? He absolutely could. Or what, you'll shoot me? Naruto scoffed. Don't be stupid. Put the gun down. Bang. The harsh crack filled the air. Pain snarled down Eve's right arm. It was so sudden, so abrupt, so utterly unexpected that she wasn't prepared for it. Hadn't even thought to conjure a barrier. She could only cry out and clutch at her bloody shoulder in horror. Tears burned in her eyes. She didn't even realize why she'd been shot. Adam Wilkins hadn't fired a gun in a terribly long time. His shot went wide and struck her instead of Naruto. It was all a tragic accident, really. But she did know that. All she knew was that she'd been shot. And then Dad was there, tugging her aside, humming softly. SHH, he crooned. You're alright, princess. I've got you. This won't take a moment. The golden hand touched her wound, coaxed around from her arm in no time at all, and sealed it shut. In a matter of moments all she felt was a numb tingle as the nerves wound themselves back together. But the shock remained. And with that came her wrath and anger. Was that it, then? They'd rather kill her than let her be happy. Dad must have seen it, too. Because his eyes began to glow. Eve beat him to it and rounded on her not parents. You shot me. Samantha, no. Adam lowered the pistol with quavering hands. I didn't mean to. Ignorance is bliss. She had hoped to spare them at least, not out of loyalty to them, but because she was a good person. She'd wanted to part on good terms. Understanding, you know. And then her not dad shot her. It wasn't enough for her to be happy. Someone always tried to take it from her. Something deep inside her snapped. It felt like her mind. You, she rasped, you're not my family. Betsy Wilkins raised a hand. Sammy, sweetie, just calm down. Calm? How could she possibly be calm? You're not my family. Power exploded through her very pore, her body bursting into almighty ethereal light. I see it all now. Her feet left the floor as she hovered in the air, voice echoing with every word, like an angel descending onto earth. Every single molecule around us. They tingled her fingertips, awaiting her command. I can touch them, taste them, control them. With but a thought she reached out and hauled her not parents forward, using nothing but sheer willpower to suspend them in the air before her and hold them there. I could rearrange your cells to make you whole new people from the pathetic parents you are. Her parents said nothing. Ever didn't let them. She never wanted to hear their voices again. You ruined my life. Her lips curled in a sneer as she held out a fist and clenched it before them. She had all the power now. Not them. Let's see how they liked it. You denied me, demeaned me, tried to make me everything I wasn't, kept me from people I didn't even know I loved. They seemed so small to her now. Insignificant. What did Kurama call the guardians of the globe before? Ants. That was the word. These people were ants before her, and she'd never felt more powerful now than she did in this moment. It felt like she could remake reality, bend all of creation to her whims. She'd broken through her limits. Nothing could stop her, she was as a god. Eve. Naruto's voice cut through her haze, snapping her out of her mad power trip. You need to breathe. She rounded on him in a frenzy, teeth gnashed in a snarl. And what do you know? Dad looked at her without fear. Take a look. You can see now, can't you? Eve did just that. As she was now, she could see his molecules, too. And the light. So much light. He burned in her vision like a second sun, and Kurama burned even brighter in his stomach. He was powerful, stronger than her, possibly the strongest being on the planet. His mind became an open book to her in this moment. She felt his concern for her, and beneath that, the sheer untapped affection a father would feel for his daughter. He loved her. She'd known that before, but now she could see it. He didn't reprimand her, didn't condemn her, didn't do anything at all. He just stared and waited for her to make the right decision. Clarity began to return to Eve, the brief burst of rage going with it. In its absence, her newfound power began to fade. But before it did, she looked back to the people she'd once called her parents. What did she feel for them now? Nothing. But she would remember the good times all the same. As to the rest. Your daughter is dead. She reached into their very thoughts with a wave of a hand. No, she amended, realizing that was cruel, you never had a daughter. You will move on and forget about me. She felt their minds try to resist her words, her will. And crushed them for it, wiping their brains clean in an instant. My name is Samantha Eve Uzumaki. With the last of her strength she screamed at them, pouring out all every ounce of emotional pain they'd ever inflicted upon her tenfold. And I defy you to even remember who I am. Her power cut out in the next instant, leaving Adam and Betsy to slump at her feet. She collapsed with them, utterly drained. Dad caught her. She snuggled her head into his chest, quivering a little. Is this what it feels like? Being a god. The low rumble of laughter tickled her ear. We're not gods, Samantha. Weren't they? She'd certainly felt like one for a moment there. Gods don't give a damn. He chided her softly. We do. She held him tighter. Hey, can we go home, now? We will. There's just one thing I have to do first. What's that? She blinked up at him, baffled. For once, his smile seemed strangely sad. I need to hit up a few old friends. The Muller twins were professionals. That wasn't arrogance on their part. It was simple truth. They were very bad people, yes, but very good at what they did. Each twin knew where the line lay. No mad plans of world domination for them, they were scientists, hungry for knowledge and not afraid to use less scrupulous methods to acquire said knowledge. But there was a line, one they never crossed. They didn't make a habit of killing indiscriminately if they didn't have to. They weren't squeamish about it, sure, but there were things you just didn't do. They had standards. Pay them properly and they'd gladly put their talents to use for the highest bidder. Sometimes that meant helping a villain. More than once, it meant freelancing for a certain hero. Currently one of them was celebrating said hero's return to the land of the living. What on earth are you cracking open that beer for? It isn't that late. Didn't you hear? He took a long swig. Fire Shadow's alive. Is he? One of the twins looked up from their work, wrench in hand. He's a good guy. Thought he was dead. Apparently not. The twin with the beer grinned. He took down some punks on the freeway today. Did he? He squinted. I didn't hear about that. Well, you would have if you hadn't had your head stuck in that machine all damn day. Remember all those times he broke us out of jail? For a good cause, he said. They were, mostly. Came the shrug. Remember helping out those orphans? Ha. I remember his wedding. Most of it. So did he. The parts where they hadn't been blackout drunk. Good times. Think he'll hit us up again? We could use the cash. Please. If he's back from the dead, the first thing he'll do is hunt down that pretty little wife of his. What was her name again? Pollyanna. Polly. The twin with the beer bottle supplied. That's the one. They'd always liked Polly. She might not be the brightest bulb in the bunch, but she wasn't afraid to give you a piece of her mind. She wasn't half bad for a powerless human. And she made some mean cookies. I dunno, stranger things have been known to happen. One of their old burner phones vibrated wildly, indicating a message. The first twin arched eyebrow and looked to the second. You gonna get that? His comrade scoffed but didn't look up from his work. Why should I? You're the clone. Hop to it. Oh, for the love of give it here already. Humming it open. He found a brisk message awaiting them within. I have a critical job for you too. He read the words aloud, already imagining Fire Shadow's grinning face staring back at him from within the cellular device. We'll meet tomorrow. Usual place. You know where. Discuss details then. You'll receive half the payment before and the other half after, same as always. Don't let me down and no funny business. I've had my fill of old friends coming up short these days. Best regards. Naruto. Ha. He smirked. Called it. Sure, whatever you say, clone. The other scoffed. Nope, you're the clone. In the end, it really didn't matter who was the clone. The kid had been good to them. Time to repay the favor. Here he comes. Nolan heard the sonic boom long before he saw him. What he did see was a distant rumble of rolling lightning rippling across the clouds at speed. Thunder raced in its wake, growing louder and louder with each passing second. He'd known this moment was coming. He delayed it by choosing not to engage him back at Ericsson's lab, but it had only ever been just that. A delay. That reprieve was over. He'd known Naruto would come for him. After all, he would do exactly the same were he in his shoes. In that regard, he'd chosen his battleground well. A distant island in the South Pacific Ocean, isolated and far from civilization. He wasn't sure how he would react once he found him here. But better safe than sorry. Better indeed, judging by the towering thunderstorm headed his way. He was moving fast. Granted, he could do something similar had on many a resisting planet, moving so fast that he superheated the air and destroyed an entire civilization, but that much lightning was a concern, even for him. He followed it with one eye, still listening. There you are. The man's voice caught up to him a heartbeat later. Nolan. He whirled, felt the air hit his face, then swung with all his might. Golden knuckles met his red-gloved fist. Neither yielded. The ground did. Hardened earth shattered underfoot, splintering outward for miles in every direction. Pain bloomed up his wrist, but he didn't have time to anything more than notice it. Because another golden fist was already swinging in at his face. He grabbed it, then the other hand, and in an instant they were grappling, pitting their full strength against one another. The storm caught up to them a second later, and they were lost in it. He felt the ground cratered further still. Dust and dirty sprayed outward. And still neither yielded. Here at last he glimpsed his foe in the rain, all shimmering gold and black. Blazing eyes met his, half-lidded as he glared heatedly at him. Naruto was a bit weaker than he remembered, but only just, and he had years of captivity to thank for that. It wouldn't last of course. He'd be back to full strength in no time and then some. After all, what didn't kill this man only made him stronger. Blasted shinobi genetics were almost as bad as Viltrumites. No, they were broken. Case in point, Naruto reared back with a roar lost in the thunder and delivered a vicious headbutt that left him seeing stars. Blinded by the blow, Nolan nevertheless struck back, smashing a knee up into his gut. Anyone else would have lost most of their internal organs and coughed blood. A pained grunt was his only reward. They released one another in the same instant and slugged each other in the face. Both of them drew back, winded at last as the storm raged past. His old rival turned adversary stood first, shook the water from his hair and set his nose with an audible pop. Hello, Nolan. Long time no see. Uzumaki. Nolan wiped a thin line of blood from his mustache. You look good for a dead man. So I've been told. The blonde cracked his neck. Were you involved? Nolan felt brow furrow in confusion. Involved in what? His old friend told him all. Everything he'd been through without hesitation. About Polly, the children, all of it. And then he asked him again. I won't say it twice, Nolan. Did you attack me that night? It was tempting to say yes, if only to provoke him into a fight and finish what he'd started. He wouldn't deny it, he'd benefited immensely from Naruto's rather prolonged absence. The people of Earth had come to rely on him more than Avera's planned. But to do something that cruel, that pervasive went against everything he stood for. If he was going to kill him, he would kill him. Straight up. He and by extension his family at least, deserved a clean death. They'd earned that much. No. He said at last, shaking his head. If I remember the date you gave me correctly, I was off planet at the time. reporting to his superior, telling him of the immensely powerful whiskered warrior he'd encountered, warning them to prepare if he ever called for backup. Naruto need not know that. Nevertheless, his response seemed to startle the blonde. He hadn't expected that answer. You're riddling the truth. He seemed almost surprised. Of course I am. Would I lie to you? All the time. Every day. From the very moment they'd met. He'd learned the hard way to be very careful whenever he answered a direct question from him. Stranger still, Naruto seemed to know he was lying about some things. He had hinted as much but let those slide, thankfully. What remained was an uneasy coexistence of sort. He had a mission here. As did this baffling blonde, though his didn't appear to involve conquering the world. So long as they didn't interfere with one another, all was well. Then who the hell attacked me? The blonde uttered to himself. We'll find them. Nolan clapped a hand to his shoulder. You have my word. In that, he was at least being honest. Anyone who could do that much damage absolutely needed to die. All it took was a moment of inattention, a moment of weakness, and even the strongest could fall. The last thing he needed was some silent assassin sneaking about under their noses. Still, the kid was looking better for his promise. Feeling better now? The blonde shrugged him off, but the hint of an old smile bloomed across his foe's whiskered visage. You still hit like a truck. He frowned at him. And you're going to war with the GTA. The smile faded. Possibly. I'd advise against it. You have no idea what war is like. Least of all with them. Aha. But I do. Naruto rounded on him, eyes wild. The object of any war is victory. At any cost. Or barring that, to make victory so painful, so utterly unobtainable, so repulsive, that they do not want it. A finger rose to jab at the sky. Reputation is what people think of you. Character is what you are. Don't test my character right now, Nolan. It won't end well for either of us. He should let this happen, but he owed him. More than words. He couldn't afford to leave things like this. And so he broached a subject few on this planet would dare. Polly's dying, isn't she? Naruto looked away, hurt flashing across his face. Her body is, yeah. He ran a hand through his hair, looking harassed. It's her organs and her brain. Whatever that bastard Erickson did to her, it stuck. I can heal it, even fix the worst of the damage, but it just keeps coming back. I don't think I can stop it. Without me, she wouldn't even last a year. There might be something we can do. We. Not you. Appeal to his decency. Let the kid think him helpful. Keen blue eyes fixed on him, almost desperate with hope. What are you suggesting? Something he really shouldn't. Nolan told himself this was the smart play. Better to keep Fire Shadow on his side, make him amenable to his plans than create an enemy of him. But it was also a betrayal of his people. It went against everything he'd ever been taught as a Viltrumite. Let the weak die and the strong survive. But if Polly died, Naruto would go mad. If he went mad, he and that damn fox of his might glass the entire planet. The Viltrum Empire absolutely needed Earth intact. No matter the cost. And so Nolan took the plunge. If she had a stronger body. Naruto shook his head. Polly doesn't want a new body and you know it. She's proud of being human. She isn't built like you or me. The things she went through, the damage she endured, it's a miracle she's still alive. Her soul is still intact, Fire Shadow muttered to himself. So long as she has that, I can save her, I think. There are still things I can do. That may be, but it doesn't chance the facts. Best to be pragmatic about this. Her body is alive, but can you truly call that living? What happens if her brain degrades even further? Will she even remember you? You're going to live a long time, Naruto. Don't your children deserve a mother who can protect them? Stop. Blue eyes snapped into glowing slits. Finish that sentence, and your face will be giving the moon another crater. Alright. Nolan raised both hands to ward him off. I'll give you some time to think on it. He waited, watching his eyes fade back to blue. Thanks. I know you mean well. Don't mention it. Anything was better than fighting it out here and now. If they did fight tonight, he knew it would be to the death. A decade ago he wouldn't have thought Fire Shadow had in him to fight like that. To take someone down and finish them. Soft, he would have called him. Weak. Always eager to talk it out, to convert people to his side, unwilling to take that hard path, the bloody path. Now? He looked at him and saw the doom in his eyes. The steely promise of cold, icy death to any who dared cross him and his. In another life, he would have made a spectacular Viltrumite. Thrag himself would have cowered before this man. As things stood, he'd probably have to kill him in a few years. It was a shame, really. Such an asset he would have been. Instead, they'd have to fight one another one day. To the bitter end. Only one of them would walk away from that fateful battle. And the worst part of it all. Nolan wasn't sure it would be him. Naruto tilted his head. You thought about killing me just now, didn't you? He scoffed in return. You were thinking the same, I'm sure. The frown. Could you do it, Nolan? Just like that? Did he know? No, he couldn't possibly. Would you? I've killed to protect my family already. The blonde before him lifted his chin. If dyeing my hands red with blood keeps them safe, I'll do all that and more. So long as they're safe. All that and more, eh? The seed of an idea was planted in his mind. It was too soon, much too soon to act on it now, but it was good to know all the same. If this mad scheme of his worked out, he just might have an ally. Naruto would do anything to protect his family, and he was clearly no friend of the GTA at the moment. Maybe he could use him, perhaps even convert. His watch beeped, ruining the moment. Nolan gave the damn thing a baleful glare and considered crushing it for a moment before he thought better of it. He heaved a sigh instead. I've gotta do. Debbie's waiting for me. It's date night. Is it? That drew a rusty chuckle from him. How's Mark? Energetic as ever. It was easy to warm to the subject of his son. All too easy. He wrapped himself in tape the other day. Called himself Duct Tape Man. Can you believe it? Naruto snorted. Kids will be kids, I guess. Nolan disagreed, but wasn't about to say so in front of him. That oldest girl of yours, what was her name again? Samantha. He didn't hesitate. Right. Nolan snapped his fingers. You should bring her by sometime. Maybe introduce her to Mark. Having a friend with powers might help him unlock his early. A lie. There was a part of him, a large part, that hoped Mark never unlocked his powers. Because once he did, once that moment came. No. He stamped that thought down, locked it in a box, and buried it in the back of his brain. Buried it deep. Too late, Fire Shadow nodded, missing his moment of weakness. I'll see what she thinks. He feigned a smile he didn't feel. Sound great. Same time next week. Naruto smirked. Sure. One last thing. He paused. Yeah. It's good to have you back. It really was. That much was truth. The blonde offered a small wan smile in response. Good to be back, Nolan. They shook hands and took off. He flew east, Naruto, to the west. One day they would face each other for real. Then the earth would tremble. But not this day. The end. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Bye bye.